These interviewers were a little too hot to handle, causing these celebrities to get a little too flirty with them on live TV. Austin Butler and Drew Barrymore. Austin Butler has been known to have a gaze that sucks people in, especially those interviewing him. When he went on to Drew Barrymore's talk show, he couldn't seem to take his eyes and gaze off of her during the whole segment. Drew was explaining to Austin that she had a date coming up and how she hasn't been on a date in like a really long time. Austin proceeded to offer her some dating advice while telling her that he actually has a good feeling about it for her, but also offering to be her like free get out of this situation phone call should she need it. He said he couldn't wait to get updates on her date and repeatedly said she could call or text him. Fans immediately picked up on this flirtatious vibe with her, and one person actually online said, "Find you a man who looks at you the way Austin Butler looks at Drew," with another person saying, "Not Austin Butler having a crush on Drew Barrymore." Madonna and Arsenio Hall. The Madonna interview on the Arsenio Hall show back in 1990 is often cited as one of the most memorable and provocative moments in television history. Madonna appeared on the show on May 1st, 1990 to promote her upcoming Blonde Ambition World Tour. The interview started off very lighthearted, with Madonna and Arsenio joking about her music and dance moves. However, things took a very flirtatious turn when Madonna began to tease Arsenio about his dancing skills. She leaned in close, touched his leg, and made suggestive comments, leaving Arsenio visibly uncomfortable. The interview sparked controversy due to Madonna's provocative behavior and suggestive comments. Some critics accused her of being too flirtatious and crossing the line of professionalism. Madonna later defended her actions, stating that she was simply trying to push boundaries and challenge societal norms. Lady Gaga and Ellen DeGeneres. Lady Gaga's interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show back in 2011 was one no one will forget. Gaga appeared on the show to promote her album and perform her hit single Judas. Now, during the interview, Gaga and Ellen DeGeneres shared a very playful and flirtatious moment. Ellen teased Gaga about her outrageous fashion sense, and Gaga responded by jokingly flirting with Ellen. The two shared a fake kiss, and Gaga even pretended to lick Ellen's face. Yes, so the audience erupted in cheers and applause, and the moment became a highlight of the show. Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann. Now, while promoting their romantic comedy How to Be Single in 2016, Dakota Johnson and Leslie Mann kept each other company during the press junket. Now, according to Harper's Bazaar, the actresses couldn't help but flirt with Miami WSVN reporter Chris Van Vliet, whom they referred to as the hot guy. Along with giggling flirtatiously, Johnson and Mann told him to take off his shirts and leave the last one unbuttoned. It began, innocently enough, with Mann complimenting the journalist's, cute socks. She started off by saying, "Are you single? You're handsome." The 3-minute interview quickly spiraled out of control, with Johnson asking, Vliet if he worked out because he looked, swolled up. The co-stars then coaxed him into unbuttoning his shirt, telling him they wouldn't speak unless he did as they asked. Dakota would later go on to apologize for her inappropriate behavior, feeling like it was all just a little too much. Andrew Garfield and Stephen Colbert. Andrew Garfield was a guest on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert back in 2017. Now, after a discussion about Garfield's kiss with Ryan Reynolds at the Golden Globes, Colbert asked Garfield if he was comfortable kissing another man, to which Garfield replied affirmatively. Now, Garfield explained that, he wanted to show Ryan Reynolds that he loved him, regardless of whether he won or lost. Garfield and Stephen ended up sharing their own kiss, and Colbert actually joked about the kiss and even said that Garfield was a very gentle lover. The two ended up kissing twice. Of course, the audience, hooed and hawed, and it made headlines immediately, with many people, questioning the whole thing. Chelsea Handler and Michael Strawn. Now, Chelsea Handler appeared twice on Live with Kelly and Michael within 3 months, and things got heated between her and the host. Handler commented on Strawn's cellulite, and he replied saying that blacks just don't crack. Now, the second time she returned, the actress confessed that people thought they had chemistry during her previous appearance and that she liked black guys. Now, at the same time, Strawn stated that everybody likes chocolate, as reported apparently by Nicki Swift. Now, she jokingly said that he was throwing his body at her and that she greatly appreciated it. Now, Kelly asked if they ever thought about actually going on a date, and the two, joked, basically saying they do have quite a bit of chemistry, so maybe a possible pairing in the future we could see. Nicole Kidman and Jimmy Fallon could have been a couple. One of the most memorable moments in recent late night years was when Jimmy Fallon had Nicole Kidman on his show, and everything would change when she was interviewed. During the interview, Kidman admitted that she had a crush on Fallon when they met back in the 90s, which made for very awkward moments as the actress brought up old feelings. Nicole Kidman revealed a past date with Fallon, which he was actually unaware of, causing him to blush and cringe as she, recounted the awkward encounter. Kidman explained that a mutual friend, Rick, set up a meeting for her and Fallon, which she thought was a date, but Fallon thought it was about a possible movie role. Fallon recounts that he was actually playing video games and eating leftover Chinese food while Kidman was there, and he was completely oblivious to any romantic undertones. The incident became a running joke between the two, and they have remained, friends despite the near-miss romance. Now, many fans went on to say that Jimmy completely missed his chance and blew the opportunity to date the Nicole Kidman. Andrew Garfield and Amelia Dimondalberg, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, on an episode of Chicken Shop Date, which is her popular long-running YouTube interview show that takes place date style, over a meal at a local chicken shop in London. The pair's chat comes 2 years after their very first meet cute sent the internet into a frenzy. They teetered between leaning into the gimmick of the interview and their seemingly real chemistry with a lot of giggling sprinkled in. Now, Amelia told Garfield in the clip, "I think that there's something going on, to the point where you've been avoiding me for 2 years because the vibes are too much for you to handle," acknowledging that they've had a couple of lovely interactions. Now, Garfield went on to say he genuinely thinks that they could have really gone on an actual date if it weren't for them being on her show. He said, "Take out all the practicalities and the logic, I actually believe that maybe we could have gone on a real date off camera." Now, the obvious current of electricity between the two has had the internet hungry for more after footage of several flirtatious encounters between the two went absolutely viral online. Kate Mara and Craig Ferguson, the former host of the Late Late Show, Craig Ferguson, was the flirting god on late night during his 9-season run. One of his, steamiest interviews occurred when Kate Mara came for her second appearance on the show and couldn't help but discuss lip gloss, making out, and the snake cut by his desk. Mara called him a dirty man when Ferguson flirted back with a sensual double entendre. Now, the first time Ferguson interviewed Mara, she seemed giggly at points, but it was mostly a pretty normal talk show appearance. However, at points during their first interview, Mara grabbed the host's hand and she spoke about how cuddly Scotsmen like Ferguson are. When Mara returned for her second appearance, her chemistry with Ferguson was on full display. Within a minute of Mara's second interview, she basically stated that she was jealous of Ferguson talking about kissing his previous guest, Morgan Freeman. Now, near the end of the interview, the flirting goes to like another level, or at least it seems to, because after the two of them are talking about horses, Mara makes a remark that even seems to take her by surprise. She says, "I'm really good at riding on the back of men's horses." She went on to say she didn't mean for it to come out that way, but audience members were not so convinced, and neither was his wife at the time. Messy. Mariah Carey and Howard Stern. Mariah's interview with Howard Stern in 1998 was quite possibly the most memorable one. While promoting her album, Carey was subjected to objectification and uncomfortable questioning by Stern. He made several lewd comments, leaving Carey visibly uneasy. The interview took a wrong turn when Stern began asking Carey about her personal life and relationships. Carey, however, didn't back down and instead called out Stern for his behavior. She later slammed Stern and his co-host, Robin Quivers, for their inappropriate interview style. The tension between Carey and Stern continued even after the interview. Carey reportedly continued to speak out against Stern's behavior, and the two had a somewhat contentious kind of relationship. Now, the two would eventually meet again in 2012 when Carey's then husband, Nick Cannon, was the host of America's Got Talent. With Stern as a judge, Cannon, developed a working relationship with the radio legend, and Cannon later revealed this connection helped actually bring Stern and Carey together after very long years of bad drama. And to throw in an honorable mention, I have Jack Harlow and Saweetie. The incident in question came as Harlow ambushed Saweetie during a red carpet interview before the ceremony. He surprised her by sneaking up on her and saying, "Hi, sweetie." He then introduced himself as Jack, to which she said, "I know." He then very flirtatiously said to her, "You don't like getting caught off guard?" To which she replied, "Why are you shaking?" The moment went viral, with many saying good for Jack for like shooting his shot, although he missed. But later they would report that they are now friends. But let's see what the future holds. You never know.
Now, Oprah with Meghan and Harry was a 2021 television special hosted by Oprah Winfrey that featured an interview between Oprah, Meghan Markle, and Prince Harry. Now, the special premiered on March 7th, 2021, and the interview came a year after Prince Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step down as working members of the British royal family in January 2020. Now, during the talk, Meghan and Harry exposed a lot about the royal family, which the royals obviously didn't like. Ahead of the interview, a clip was released of Oprah asking Meghan whether she was silent or silenced during her time as a working royal. The latter, Meghan responded. "I've always been outspoken, especially about women's rights, and that's the sad irony of the last 4 years. I've advocated for so long for women to use their voice," Meghan said. Now, after Harry and Meghan took their relationship public, Meghan said she was given a very clear directive from the moment the world knew Harry and I were dating to always say no comment. Now, Meghan also opened up about how she had dark thoughts while being a royal and how she wanted to hurt herself. She also said that she never got the proper mental health care from the palace that she needed. But one of the most shocking bombshells they dropped was when the couple also revealed that there were concerns and conversations about how dark Archie's skin would be before he was born from members of the royal family. Though Harry made it clear that this was not the Queen or Prince Philip who said this. Now, all the comments they made got people up in arms about the two of them, as some people felt bad for Harry and Meghan for what they went through, while others were mad that they exposed the conversations they had with the royals and saying that the couple just wanted attention. But at the end of the day, it is an interview that has gone down in history for sure. During a 2021 episode of The View, host Sharon Osbourne got heated with her co-host Cheryl Underwood. They were talking about Piers Morgan and his offensive comments about Meghan Markle, and now Sharon is friends with Piers, so she was defending him and what he said, which honestly wasn't a good look. Cheryl then attempted to calm Sharon down as she disagreed with her, but it was too late as Sharon went on a rant filled with swear words that needed to be bleeped out. Now, during the exchange, Cheryl got emotional, to which Sharon fired back at her saying, "Don't cry, because if anyone should be crying, it should be me." Now, this resulted in Sharon's departure from the show, and hey, it's okay to have different opinions, but she was making it so hostile and uncomfortable. I understand why she was removed from the show. Sharon said she was set up and sent out as the show's sacrificial lamb after heatedly defending her friend Piers for his controversial comments. She said, I've been set up. I went, how dare you all do this to me? I'm your sacrificial lamb," she said. Now, this isn't the first time that an Osbourne has actually gotten in trouble on the show, as Sharon's daughter Kelly got in some hot water in 2015 when she also made a racist comment. Now, at this point, the hosts of The View were speaking about the person who is now President of the United States. They were criticizing his description of Mexican immigrants, and Kelly was trying to make a point asking, if you kick every Latino out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet? Now, immediately after making the remark, the other co-hosts were taken aback and tried to stop Kelly from speaking further, but she continued in a sense that, you know what I mean. Now, this moment was honestly just embarrassing, and before Kelly could continue on, she was interrupted by co-host Rosie Perez, who was of Puerto Rican descent. Rosie said Latinos are not only people doing that, and Kelly quickly jumped in saying, "No, I didn't mean it like that, come on, I would never mean it like that, I'm not a part of this argument." Now, this left a lot of viewers and the hosts both shocked and disgusted. Kelly then later apologized for the whole ordeal, but it was just bad. She then spoke about the incident in Rolling Stone and clarified her comments saying, "This whole country is built on immigrants, and if you stop people from coming into this country who do the jobs that make this country exist and thrive and flourish, who's going to do all the jobs you don't want to do yourself?" she said. It came out so wrong. Dakota Johnson ruined Ellen DeGeneres' career on her own talk show. Yeah, in 2019, Dakota was on an episode of The Ellen DeGeneres Show, and while being interviewed, Ellen threw some shade, insisting that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party. Now, without hesitating, Dakota shut this down, saying it was false, by giving us the iconic line of, "Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen." Now, Dakota then went on to explain that the last time she was on Ellen's show, Ellen gave her a hard time about not inviting her last year. So she made sure that she did this year, which is honestly super smart. Now, Dakota then advised Ellen to ask her producers about her invitation, stating, "I did invite you and you didn't come, ask everybody." The producers then confirmed the host had indeed been invited to the bash, but had chosen not to attend. "Why didn't I go?" Ellen asked out loud. "Oh yeah, I had that thing. The party was probably in Malibu, that's too far for me to go to." Yikes. Well, at least Dakota stood her ground, but after this, more people started calling out Ellen for some of her rude behavior that she's had in the past, and some say this moment was the catalyst for Ellen's show getting cancelled. Tom Cruise made an appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2005 to promote his remake of The War of the Worlds, but no one really focused on the movie though. It was more about Tom's behavior. Now, when the topic changed to who Tom was dating, which was Katie Holmes by the way, Tom couldn't contain his excitement. At different times during the interview, he jumps out of his seat, throws his arms in the air, pumps his fists, falls to his knees, slaps the ground, squirms, and tries to walk it all off. Now, the studio audience absolutely loved this. "Something happened to you," a delighted Oprah exclaimed at one point. "I'm in love," Tom explained. In total, he jumped on the couch twice to show his excitement. Now, critics of the chat weren't so sure, however, with The Ringer saying it rocked Hollywood and became a turning point for how we discuss and understand celebrities, and not in a good way. Now, others thought it was cute though, as it was just a new side to Tom that we had never really seen before. In 2012, Paula Deen was sued by a former general manager of one of her restaurants, claiming that she would usually use racial slurs around workers and wanted to stage a Southern-themed wedding with black men playing slaves. Yeah, that is messed up. In testimony during the trial, the manager's lawyer asked Paula if she had ever used the N-word before, and Paula said yes, of course. Now, as for the slave wedding, she admitted to that too, claiming that she got the idea from another restaurant and found the concept to be beautiful and really impressive. Once her statements were verified in district court, the Food Network reacted swiftly, refusing to renew her contract. She then went on to the Today Show to try to smooth over the scandal, but she refused to take accountability and instead played victim. While speaking with NBC's Matt Lauer, Paula deflected criticism, seemingly expressing shock that people were offended by what she said. Now, Matt later said that he thought that she was only doing the interview in an attempt to save her career, and not because she actually felt remorse. Now, in the end, Paula never quite fully recovered from the hit to her reputation, and she wasn't seen the same ever again. Jamie Kennedy is best known for his role in the Scream movies, but the real horror was when he hosted a New Year's Eve countdown show on December 31st, 2012 on KDOC, an independent TV station in Los Angeles. Now, this whole show was a complete fail and made everyone involved look like a fool, as it was so poorly done and honestly just a train wreck. There were plenty of times where it showed Jamie looking lost on stage, not knowing when the show was live or when the camera was on him. I mean, hey, we'll cut him some slack, as the point of the show was just to be together and celebrate the countdown to midnight, but they couldn't even get that right. Their countdown was 10 seconds behind. Then, at the end of the show, a huge brawl happened on stage, and well, the rest is history. Now, unbelievably, Kennedy told the New York Times that the show was terrible on purpose. It was totally supposed to be like that. We wanted to make almost an anti-New Year's Eve show. I'm like the Kardashian of comedy. People seem to hate me, but they can't stop watching, he said. Now, a lot of people didn't buy this though, as it was just a mess, and it was hard to take him seriously.
You do seem a bit irritated. Perhaps it's just us.
Yeah, I think it's just you.
This interview was an absolute train wreck, and because it felt like the interviewers were constantly disrespecting Cara, she was in savage mode the whole time. The interview started off with her being referred to as Carla, Yikes. Kara was being interviewed to promote the new movie Paper Towns with Good Morning Sacramento. I think the interviewers didn't mean to offend her with their questions, but Kara is clearly very sarcastic, so when she tried to be sarcastic, they took it as being rude, and then Kara got irritated as the questions became even more rude, so it was just really a downward spiral. The worst part was when another guy hopped into the interview and flat out asked her why she can't be more enthusiastic. Then someone else chimed in, quote, "You seem a little irritated. We'll let you go take a little nap and maybe get a Red Bull." Kara then decided to walk off in the middle of the interview, and I really can't blame her. And at number 9, Tyra Banks.
Okay, ready?
Pretty version
I'm gonna
of
try to
a
grab him, okay?
No, what
Okay,
if
ready?
he jumps on me? No, no, no.
Oh,
Oh my
hold
god.
on. Ready? I'm gonna hold him right at my lap. There we go.
Oh my god, I don't like him either. I don't really like him either. Oh my god, he's scary.
In 2007, during an episode of The Tyra Banks Show, Tyra ended up completely embarrassing herself after an animal expert brought out a porcupine. I'm not sure producers knew that she hated porcupines or if it was a coincidence, but once the animal was brought out, Tyra decided to get away from it by sitting on top of her couch. But the couch ended up disconnecting, tipping over, and Tyra fell to the ground. Everyone had a good laugh while the guests helped her up. It seemed that the porcupine wasn't really a threat at all, and it really didn't care that the whole debacle even happened. It was just sitting there eating its treats. Honestly, adorable. And at number 8, TJ Miller. This interview was incredibly embarrassing because TJ Miller was completely wasted during it, and you can tell Colbert was just trying to keep things under control the whole time. The interview starts off pretty uneasy, with Miller talking about how Colbert is his wife's favorite comedian, which is, you know, a little awkward because Miller himself is obviously a comedian. Both of them had a laugh at that. But then TJ starts getting so annoying that Colbert genuinely looked mad. At one point, Miller is trying to make a joke about the Critics' Choice Awards, and while everyone is incredibly confused, he smashes an egg on his face, getting some egg on Colbert in the process. Miller finished off the segment by touching Colbert with his creepy skeleton hands. Definitely got secondhand embarrassment watching that. And at number 7, Danny DeVito. This one is pretty embarrassing, but more so adorable. This interview took place on The View, and it's hard not to crack a smile while watching it. The interview actually starts with DeVito admitting that he was hungover AF as he was out drinking with George Clooney the night before. Humble brag, I see. He also said he had 7 limoncellos right before the interview, and that they were finally catching up to him. He then starts talking about President Bush and making crazy facial expressions and noises to imitate him. Then when he literally looks like he's either gonna fall asleep or pass out, Rosie O'Donnell brought him over to cuddle. I'm sure he was embarrassed after this, but it just made me love him even more. And at number 6, Vin Diesel.
She's so beautiful. I'm in love. I'm in love with the interview.
This has to be my favorite interview moment of all time, and if you watch the H3 podcast, you've probably already seen it. The interview went down in 2016 at the Comic-Con experience in Brazil. The actor sat down with Brazilian journalist Carol Morena to promote his upcoming film, XXX Return of Xander Cage. But I don't think he actually said anything about the film, because the entire interview he was just talking about how the reporter looked. Basically, right in the beginning of the interview, he blurts out, quote, "God, you're so beautiful." Then talking to the crew, he added, quote, "My God, she's so beautiful, man. Am I right or wrong? Look at her. How am I supposed to do this interview? Look at this woman. She's so beautiful. Talk to me, baby." And trust me, that's literally the tip of the iceberg. The reporter talked about the experience in a YouTube video where she said that she didn't know how to react to his advances, so she basically just laughed the whole time. This one is honestly impossible to watch without cringing. Halfway number 5, Dakota Johnson. You all should know about this cultural reset by now, because this interview kicked off Ellen DeGeneres' downfall. The interview kicks off normally with Ellen asking about Dakota's 30th birthday party. Ellen asked how the party was because she wasn't invited. Without a second thought, Johnson claps back, quote, "Actually no, that's not the truth, Ellen." Then going on to say how she made a point to invite Ellen after Ellen gave her a ton of crap about not inviting her the year before. With Dakota adding, quote, "Ask everybody, ask Jonathan, your producer." Then Ellen's producer confirmed she was invited, with Ellen responding, quote, "Why didn't I go? Oh yeah, I had that thing. The party was probably in Malibu. That's too far for me to go." The interview managed to somehow get even worse when they started talking about Tig Notaro, and Dakota said that Tig was her favorite comedian, making the interview even more uncomfortable to watch. And at number 4, the Kardashians. This interview is so legendary, I'm sure you've seen it memed online. Everyone always asks what the Kardashians are famous for, and the common answer is that they're famous for being famous. But things got ugly when Barbara Walters asked the same question to the Kardashians. While Barbara Walters was interviewed interviewing the Kardashian family as a part of her 10 Most Fascinating People 2011 special, she just said what we were all thinking. While talking with the family, she asked, quote, "You don't act, you don't sing, you don't dance, you don't have any, forgive me, any talent." And the Kardashians definitely did not disagree that they don't have talents, but Khloe did kind of clap back, adding, quote, "But we're still entertaining people." Awkward. And at number 3, Madonna. David Letterman loves poking fun at his guests, and it seems that in this interview, Madonna tried to give him a taste of his own medicine, but it failed horribly. Their 1994 interview is one of the most controversial in history. Madonna also broke the record for saying the F word the most times on live TV, saying it 14 times. Letterman started off the interview with a jab, saying that Madonna had, quote, "slept with the biggest names in the entertainment industry." From there, it went downhill. Madonna came on stage with underwear behind her back and said, quote, "I'm only here because I couldn't escape this. Don't flatter yourself." Then Letterman started repeatedly asking her to kiss a man in the audience, to which she responded asking why he's so obsessed with her love life. Madonna then tried to get Letterman to smell her underwear, which he did not. After tons of swearing, sexual innuendos, and going way over time, they finally got Madonna to walk off stage. And at number 2, Wendy Williams. This moment was probably a little embarrassing for Wendy, but it was incredibly shocking and scary for those that were watching it. During a live broadcast of The Wendy Williams Show, Wendy suddenly fainted to the ground. It was a Halloween episode, so Wendy was wearing a Statue of Liberty costume. She started to introduce the next guest, but heavily slurred her words. All of a sudden, she gets a terrified look in her eyes and starts stumbling, then suddenly she falls to the floor. Thankfully, after she was looked at, she was fine. She continued filming the show. The next day she addressed it, saying, quote, "I'm a 53-year-old middle-aged woman going through what middle-aged women go through, if you know what I mean. The costume got hot. All of a sudden, right before passing out, I felt like I was in the middle of a campfire." Also adding that anyone who was trying to take her purple chair was gonna have to wait a long time. And finally, number 1, Jimmy Fallon. This one's a mix of embarrassing and endearing. While Nicole Kidman was on the Jimmy Fallon show, they were reminiscing about the last time that they met. When they were both going over their version of the night, Kidman ended up admitting that she had a huge crush on Fallon at the time, and she even asked their mutual friend to set them up on a date, which was the time that they actually met up. However, Fallon had no idea it was a setup. He thought it was just some sort of, business conversation, so he was a perfect gentleman and never made a move. Throughout the entire interview, Jimmy is realizing that he had a shot at Nicole Kidman, but totally blew it. Kidman even said she assumed that he was gay when he didn't make a move on her. At number 10 is Shaq's embarrassing trip to Walmart. The NBA Hall of Famer is one of the greatest basketball players of all time and is also hilarious, by the way. Honestly, I feel like his comedy is a little underrated, not gonna lie. Even though he's retired now, he still maintains his funny personality on social media and in live interviews. During one of his interviews in 2018 while he was on The Late Late Show, he shared the story about a time that he went to Walmart and his credit card got declined. The incident happened after he was traded from Miami to Phoenix and he needed furniture for his new apartment because he didn't want to wait for his stuff to arrive from Miami. So he went to Walmart and spent $70,000, but his credit card got declined several times and he actually had to call American Express with everyone watching. $70,000 at Walmart? What are you buying? Moving on to number 9 is Madonna opens up about her sex life. Leave it up to Ellen to add a game to her show that has her celebrity guests opening up about their personal business. She added this classic party game, Never Ever Have I Ever, and has them answer with an answer card that says they have, or if they flip it, it says they have never. Madonna was paired with Justin Bieber to play, and Ellen asked them, "Never ever have I ever had sex with more than 2 different people in one day." Justin and Ellen both held up the I have never card, but Madonna held up the I have. Unfortunately, we didn't get any more details about who her 2-for-1 hookups were, but we did learn that she is just a little more frisky than we thought. Cruising into our number 8 spot is the time that Diddy confessed the craziest place that he had sex. Ellen DeGeneres is back at it again with a fun game to get some gossip about her guests, and one of them is called Hot Seat. Her guests sit with her in 2 hot seats and they fire off questions that they have to answer, and then they quickly hit the buzzer when they are done. Apparently her show just has no shame in asking people about their sex life, because she asked him, "Where is the craziest place you've had sex?" But he had no shame in answering and revealed the secret that he's actually had sex at Nobu, which is one of the most famous and popular restaurants in LA.
So next time you're eating at Nobu, just know that he had sex there. In spot number 7 is Kim Kardashian accidentally revealed the gender of her child. In the world of Hollywood, media outlets would fight to their death to find out a secret like this so that they could be the first to publish it. But Kim didn't give them the chance because she accidentally let it slip during an interview on Ellen. Her and her husband Kanye West revealed that they were going to have their third child through a surrogate but didn't want to reveal the gender. She screwed up though when she was telling a story about her daughter North wanting to keep all the new baby's toys in her room. She said that the day after the shower, North went up to her and said, "Mom, since baby sister's not here, I think I need all of her toys in my room and I'll play with them and make sure they're okay for baby sister." Ellen was quick to point out that she just told us it is a girl because she's having a baby sister. Oops. And number 6 is the time that Denise Richards talked about her lesbian fling. Most people are used to seeing her as Charlie Sheen's former wife and also the mother to his kids. But when she did an interview on the Howard Stern show, she revealed some spicy information about her life outside of Mr. Sheen. She admitted that she had hooked up with a female friend. She wouldn't reveal who it was, but said that she's also a well-known Hollywood star. She talked about it and said, "I just met her through friends and work and stuff. I was just curious. We were curious. She was a girly girl and she's beautiful. You would know who she is." Come on, Denise, we need more than that. Tell us who it is. I want to know. We are halfway through and we have Justin Timberlake admitted to a hookup. He was another victim of Ellen's game of Never Ever Have I Ever, and he played with the infamous boy band NSYNC. They were all asked, "Never ever have I ever slept with a Spice Girl?" Justin was the only person to turn the card so that it said "I have." The audience began cheering and of course they wanted to know which Spice Girl it was, but he refused to tell. We'll leave it up to fans to come to the conclusion though that it was Baby Spice. They started posting a video clip of an interview she did back in 2004 when she was asked if she had a one-nighter with Justin, because those were the rumors going on at the time. She responded with, "We hung out and partied a bit and he's very sweet. He spoke about this first because otherwise I would have not said a word. He's very sweet." So she didn't really confirm nor deny. At number 4 we have J-Lo snuck a man into her house. Now you're probably wondering why she would have to sneak a man into her house, like she is an adult and she's also J-Lo, so she can basically do whatever she wants and invite people into her house at any time. But there is one thing she has to consider, and that is her kids, which is ultimately her biggest priority. During an interview one time, she was asked about her love life and if she has ever had to sneak a man into her house, and she revealed that she totally has. Fans were hoping she might spill the tea and tell us who it was, but she kept that little detail to herself and admitted that she has totally snuck a man in at night while her kids were sleeping. Alright guys, we have made it to number 3 and it's a bit more serious. Melissa Joan Hart revealed on a talk show that she did drugs during her time as Sabrina the Teenage Witch. For a long time, she was the ultimate girl next door. Audiences fell in love with her instantly and she quickly became a teen star. But back in 2013, she got candid during an interview and dished details about her wild side. She said she had drug-fueled Hollywood nights and revealed shocking affairs with some of her co-stars at the time. She said, "I experimented with weed, ecstasy, and mushrooms for about a year and a half. One of her most shocking stories was from 1999 where she said she took ecstasy one night at the Playboy Mansion, made out with a girl on the limo ride home, and then showed up to her Maxim photo shoot still high from the night before." Honestly, I would have never suspected this from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Kinda ruining my childhood a little bit, kinda weird to think about, but hey. I don't judge. Taking over the number 2 spot is Leslie Jones, used to work for Scientology. The SNL star was on the Ellen DeGeneres show when she was asked what job she worked before she was famous. Surely, she could have said any of her other jobs, like McDonald's or Walmart or something. I'm sure we all had a part-time job. But instead, she was honest and admitted that she used to be a telemarketer for Scientology. She said, "I lived in Glendale. I needed to pay the rent and it was a very easy interview. I just acted crazy. They kinda still don't know I'm not a Scientologist." She cracked a joke to the camera and apologized to other Scientologists out there for revealing things. But she seemed to have no problem revealing the secret, despite all the controversy around the religion. In our number 1 spot is Holly Madison revealing dark secrets about Hugh Hefner. Many people would love to know all the juicy details of what really went on in the Playboy Mansion when Hugh Hefner was still with us. But thanks to his former girlfriend Holly Madison, we do. After being his #1 girlfriend in the house and dating him for 6 years, she decided to write a tell-all book called Down the Rabbit Hole back in 2015. The book exposed their age difference in the relationship and just everything that came along with it. She then went on to do some talk shows where she talked about personal experiences in their sex life, saying they used to engage in group sex in his bedroom, and also admitted to the wild parties that they had at the house, claiming that some of the girls would actually be drugged at the party and then taken advantage of. Some of her claims were pretty serious, and her former playmate said that she was lying and actually did not defend her statements. So basically it's if you believe her or not. Beginning in the countdown, number 10 is Howie Mandel. Although he's a very successful comedian and a lot of people would defend his humor, there will naturally be people out there who just don't find him funny. He's also known for his rowdy and loud personality, and one person who isn't a fan of it is Piers Morgan. Turns out he didn't care for Howie's cheerful attitude and silly jokes, so he banned him from returning to his talk show. The comedian never really did anything to personally upset him, and there isn't some big drama to the story. He simply just didn't like him on the show. Piers said that Howie was too irritating to have on his show, and even went as far as calling him the most annoying man in the history of planet Earth. That makes it crystal clear, Piers Morgan. Clear as glass. You do not like Howie Mandel. Coming up next, number 9 is Madonna. At first it might be shocking to think that someone would ban the Queen of Pop herself, but there is one talk show she is permanently banned from. She too got banned from Piers Morgan, and he made sure that everyone knew about it. Back in 2011, he made a public statement saying that he would never allow her to return to a guest on his CNN show at the time. He called Madonna, I quote, "an irritant in my life for 20 years. So it sounds like they've had some beef for a while then. He said that she would only be invited onto his show if she made an apology to him on live television. There's been different rumor mills on why he dislikes her so much, but his exact reasons are still kind of unclear. He just said that she is responsible for a series of crimes against him, whatever that means. Rolling into the number 8 spot is Gilbert Gottfried. He's a talented comedian but is known for having a dark sense of humor, mainly insult comedy. He's been titled crude, inappropriate, but also hilarious. I think people's personal opinions on him would just vary depending on their sense of humor, which is fair because we all have our own sense of humor. But radio and television personality Howard Stern wasn't a fan of his comedy when he appeared on his talk show. The two of them got pretty heated with one another, and Howard said that he was being talked down to by Gilbert. He also took a joke too far and spit up cupcakes behind the scenes while the cameras were still rolling, and Howard just was kind of frustrated by it. He didn't really get it and he didn't find it funny. He was actually once a regular on his show, but he has never appeared on it since, and Howard does not have plans to bring him back. Moving on to number 7, we have Howard Stern. Well, isn't that just a funny little coincidence? What comes around goes around, I guess. He issued a few different bans on other celebrities, but was on the receiving end for one of them. It all came from his longtime feud with Jay Leno, which all started after Howard accused him of stealing bits from his own show. Not to mention the chaos in 1995 when Howard appeared on his show and brought 2 nearly naked women on stage and started sucking on their toes when Leno interviewed the next guests. He was so mad with this weird and erratic behavior that he actually ended the show early by walking off the stage. In at number 6 is the Kardashians. I am not going to name the girls off one by one because they all got banned from a show as a family, like a group coupon kind of deal. Like a Groupon. Back in 2012, during an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, the CNN news anchor Anderson Cooper was asked if there was anyone he would refuse to have on his show at the time. He responded with, "I'd say generally any member of the Kardashian family." There wasn't much of an explanation why, and people were actually confused because just a few hours before that interview, Khloe tweeted about how much she loves the newsman and even referred to him as a silver fox. Which is just awkward, because clearly y'all are not on the same page with one another. Halfway through at number 5 is Kathy Griffin, another comedian whose content focuses a lot on dark comedy and controversial subjects like religion, politics, and LGBTQ rights. So there is bound to be a few people that she offends or frustrates. Throughout her career, she's been banned from more talk shows than anyone else on this list, and they include The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, The View, Ellen, and The Late Show with David Letterman. The reasons vary from making derogatory comments all the way to taking her clothes off. off. True story. Video proof is still on YouTube. While she was on the David Letterman's talk show, she decided to take off her clothes on live television during their interview. She literally undid her dress, pulled it down, exposed her entire bra and her stomach and the fact that she was not wearing underwear. True story. And then she had him zip it back up, and it's very uncomfortable to watch, but I think you should. Sliding into number 4 is Hugh Grant. How could anyone possibly ban the charming actor? I mean, am I right? Well, it is possible, and Jon Stewart banned him from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart back in 2009. He said his decision is justified though, and claimed that Hugh was extremely rude when he appeared on the show. He said he was cursing, complaining about everything, and people around him complained that he was annoying pretty much everyone on set. But down the road, the actor admitted that he was in a bad mood that day, and he tweeted out, "Turns out my inner crab got the better of me with TV producer in 09. Unforgivable. Jay Stewart, correct, give me kicking." At least he admits it, right? I mean, we have all had bad days. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was cranky sometimes. Alright guys, we've made it to number 3 and we have Joan Rivers. The comedian legend was once a permanent guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, but she ended up landing a gig to have her very own late night show on Fox, and their friendship soon came to an end because of it. She made history for being the first woman to ever host a late night broadcast talk show, but it turned out to be a flop, and Carson felt betrayed by her because she left, so he banned her from returning to his, which I get. The ban even continued when Jay Leno took over in 1992 because Jay Leno was just trying to respect Carson's wishes. But in 2014, the ban was finally lifted by Jimmy Fallon when he did his premiere episode as the host of The Tonight Show. Taking over the number 2 spot is Adrian Brody. The actor completely shocked the audience with a joke that has gone down in history for being so inappropriate and offensive. Back in 2012, he was hosting SNL and he went onto the stage to introduce the rapper Sean Paul, but he wore a wig of fake dreadlocks and attempted this horrible Jamaican accent. The joke gone wrong was enough for him to get banned from ever returning to the show. Not to mention, the producer Lorne Michaels is said to hate when celebrities go unscripted on his show and do things that haven't first been approved or at least discussed, because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have approved that joke. Winning the number 1 spot is Sinead O'Connor. The singer-songwriter first rose to fame in the 80s and has always been controversial and open about her political views and beliefs. But she's another person who got banned from SNL for pulling a stunt that went too far and did not have people laughing like the show's intentions are. While she was singing a cover of Bob Marley's War, she took out a picture of Pope John Paul II and started reciting the word evil. And then she went on to rip it in half and say, "Fight the real enemy." The entire studio was shocked and left in complete silence, probably feeling super uncomfortable, not really knowing how to react to something like that. I'm confused. I don't understand. Starting us off at number 10 is Steven Seagal. If you thought he was the type of guy who wouldn't share his negative opinions about a topic, then you thought wrong. He likes to express these emotions through humor, but one time his jokes did not win him laughs. They actually got him banned from Saturday Night Live. Back in 1991, he hosted the show and received some pretty harsh ratings for his appearance. His jokes rubbed people the wrong way, but apparently there was also reports that he was just difficult to work with. Some crew members said they disliked working with him and that he was the worst host to ever appear on the show. So the actor and martial arts guru got banned from the show altogether. Moving on to number 9, we got Vince Vaughn. Many people would say that he's a great actor, but rumor has it there are less charming things about him when he is not on our screens. Everyone is allowed their own opinion, and apparently the actor made it clear that he doesn't really approve of gay marriage and same-gender relationships in general. And he revealed some of these comments while doing an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show. As you know, Ellen is happily married to another woman and is a huge influence in the LGBTQ community. Now, there's been no confirmation from the source herself, but reports were made saying that after the interview, he was banned from returning to her show for a few years. Climbing into our number 8 spot is Gary Busey. He's a man full of talent, but his erratic behavior does not always sit well with others ever since his tragic motorcycle accident that ended with severe brain damage back in 1988. Throughout different interviews, he's shown fans that he has multiple personalities, which some people might get a kick out of, but Howard Stern is not one of those people. Gary got banned from the Howard Stern show after one of his interviews where he displayed this wild and bizarre behavior. He picked up Howard's co-host in this weird bear hug stunt, and he also wrestled Howard himself to the floor. In the middle of the interview. Just put him on the floor. Howard has said he felt some guilt banning him from returning to his show, but admits that he just simply cannot handle it. And at number 7 is Chris Brown. The singer flew into a rage on the set of Good Morning America, so it's not all that surprising that they wouldn't want him back on their show. It was back in 2011 when the singer didn't like the question they asked him, so he decided to walk out during the middle of the on-air interview. But he didn't just walk out gracefully, he left the interview, went backstage, ripped off his shirt like the Hulk, and smashed a studio window. Tell me it's not a coincidence that all of this anger came from a question about his felony assault case against his ex-girlfriend Rihanna. I mean, dude, you're really not helping your case here by trying to show the world that you can control your anger. No offense. Cruising into number 6 is Heather Mills. This one runs a lot deeper than just having bad behavior or a bad first impression. She was banned from the Piers Morgan show because she cheated on her husband. You're probably wondering why he would care about her love life so much. Well, her husband is actually his best friend. So you can imagine that would put him in an uncomfortable situation with having her on the show for interviews. So reports say after she cheated on his best friend, he banned her from being a guest on his show. Apparently, he's made some comments about the situation and said that she's just another, I quote, gold digger chasing wealthy gentlemen. Halfway through at number 5 is Kelsey Grammer. It appears as though Piers Morgan might throw bans around like it's no big deal, or maybe he's just a really hard guy to please. He slapped a lifetime ban on the Frasier actor after he appeared on Piers Morgan Live. What happened was, during his appearance, the network showed a photograph of his ex-wife, Camille Grammer, after they promised that the subject of his relationship would not be discussed on air. He responded to the photos by walking off set before he even made his full appearance. So they gave him a lifetime ban. Some people said it was a dramatic reaction, while others say the ban was a little over dramatic. So, what do you guys think? Which was the dramatic part? The reaction to the photos or the lifetime ban? Moving along to number 4, we have Piers Morgan. Yes, the roles have reversed. He throws around these bans on other celebrities, but he himself got one from Rosie O'Donnell. Now, the two of them don't actually have any beef with each other. Rosie banned him from the talk show, The Rosie Show, out of loyalty to one of her friendships. Turns out she's a good friend to Madonna, who got banned from Piers Morgan Live. I shared that story in our part 1 video. And since they are good friends, Rosie lashed back at Piers after finding out that Madonna got banned from his show and said that she was gonna ban him from hers. Rolling into our 3rd spot is Chevy Chase. He was once a big star from the original Saturday Night Live cast back in 1975. Actually, he was one of the first. But he is also the first cast member to ever get banned from the show. The good news is, his ban came long after he had left the show on his own terms. He left the show after 2 successful years and then returned 8 different times to host Saturday Night Live. During his 8th time hosting though, he got officially banned from ever returning after he hit another cast member in the back of the head. I'm not laughing that he punched someone, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. Will Ferrell reported him after he apparently witnessed the physical assault. But over the years, he has gotten on better terms with the creator Lorne Michaels, and although he was banned from hosting, they did allow him back on the show for smaller appearances. Taking over our number 2 spot is Martin Lawrence. It seems like NBC has no problem banning celebrity talent from Saturday Night Live if they are not pleased with their experience. Even the hilarious actor-comedian was banned from the network after he used inappropriate language that they said could risk the show's ratings. In his open monologue back in 1994, he made a reference to the female genitalia and also said some curse words, both things that were obviously not in the original script. He was banned from the show, and fortunately for the network, the inappropriate monologue was edited in a way so that they could take some of that out, so it didn't damage the ratings all that much, but some of it was still left in. Earning the number 1 spot on our list is Bobcat Goldthwait. This one takes the cake. It's honestly pretty crazy, and I'm surprised I didn't know about it before researching for my list. Back in 1994, the comedian went on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during the interview, he got infuriated when he heard that the Arsenio Hall show was being canceled. But he took his anger to a whole different level, and during the middle of the interview, he stood up, took out some lighter fluid, soaked his interview chair, and set the chair on fire. Maybe just the slightest bit dramatic, but to no surprise, he was banned appearing on the show ever again. He actually got fined, and he was forced to make a public service announcement in regards to fire safety.
At number 10, Charles Rocket. Between 1980 and 1981, SNL seemed to be on its last legs. This all came about after there were some changes in staff, and Gene Dumanian was promoted to executive producer of SNL after Lorne Michaels decided to take a break from the show. Because of this seemingly controversial change, much of the original cast of the show left, leaving Jean to rehire a brand new cast. This gave people new opportunities, but also made others lose everything that they worked for. Comedian Charles Rocket was one cast member who had their career destroyed on the show after he dropped an F-bomb during a skit. The comedian was closing out the show when he spoke some adult language, and since that is a huge no-no, it got him reprimanded and caused him as well as a handful of others to get fired. So not only did he destroy his career, but other members of the cast seemingly met that same fate. At number 9, Jimmy Fallon. Last year, people were canceling celebrities left, right, and center for a bunch of different things. We had Ellen and her backstage drama, we had Lea Michele and her Hollywood mean streak, and we also had Jimmy Fallon because after a clip of the late night host in blackface resurfaced on the internet, the fiery hordes of Twitter came looking for vengeance. The clip in question came from a bit that Jimmy was doing as an impersonation of Chris Rock back in 2000. Because this all came about during the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement last summer, people were extra mad at Jimmy and some thought that his career was over after this. But much like many other scandals online, this all blew over after Jimmy issued an apology and took accountability for his actions. Do you guys remember this scandal, and do you think that his career should have been over after this? Let me know your thoughts down below. Now before I carry on the list, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and if you're interested in gaming content, consider checking out my gaming channel Viper Girl. There's lots of fun content for you guys to enjoy over there, so check it out and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Jenny Slate. Imagine the worst first day you've ever had. Now after I tell you about Jenny Slate's first day on SNL, I want you to see if your first day is as bad as hers, because Jenny's first day ended her career before it really got a chance to start. Though she's successful now, her career had been delayed for a bit after she goofed up on SNL on her first night as a cast member. Back in 2009, Jenny got the chance to perform one of the sketches that she wrote called Biker Chit Chat. She knew the bit like the back of her hand, or at least she thought she did, because when she went to say one of her lines, she made it a little more adult by accidentally switching up one of the words and dropping an F-bomb in its place. We all know that on network television, and especially on shows like this, having adult dialogue is a serious no-no, and so when Jenny dropped that big ol' F, it was not good for her at all. After that night, Jenny struggled to fit the show's vibe, at least that's what she claimed to say. The F-bomb combined with some other behind-the-scenes stuff caused her to get fired from one of the most famous shows on TV, and that definitely held her back in comedy for a little bit, but clearly not forever. At number 7, David Letterman. When celebrities get exposed for some type of scandal, it's a big deal, and it can be career-altering, so when David Letterman exposed his own cheating scandal on his late-night talk show, things were serious, and some didn't know if he would ever bounce back from this bombshell. In October 2009 on his late-night talk show, David Letterman exposed his affair and revealed to the public that he had been intimately involved with someone from the studio. He also revealed that the reason why he was publicly addressing his affair was because someone was threatening to blackmail him for $2 million. He then told his audience about the mysterious package he found in his car one day and how his blackmailer had demanded to be paid off in order to keep this information from the public and from his wife. Rather than pay up, he owned up to his actions, but this was still a big deal because it was revealed that his mistress actually worked for him. Because this was a huge story, some wondered what it meant for the future of Letterman's show and career, but after some scrutiny, he was able to stay afloat for a little longer. It didn't destroy him, but it almost did. At number 6, Gene Simmons. I think we can all agree that Gene Simmons is somewhat of an outlandish guy. He's a guy with a lot of energy and no filter, so when it comes to sitting down with him live, you never know what he might say, but you can only hope that it won't be too offensive. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They liked the guy and liked having him on their talk show, but after causing a stir during a meeting at Fox and making crude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene got banned for life, and it was a hot topic of its own. Some of the things that Gene said to some of the women at the network got leaked, and it's not nice at all. In this day and age, making comments like that is sure to get you in some serious trouble, and for a celebrity, that is never good because that can cost you your entire career. At number 5, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a super successful actor, but after a scandal while hosting Saturday Night Live in 2003, there could have been a chance that his career would have been well and truly over. Back then, cancel culture wasn't yet a thing, but if it was, Adrien would have had his own over party trending on Twitter. When hosting SNL, the person tasked with being the host that evening is responsible for introducing the musical guest for that evening. On the night that Adrien was hosting, the musical guest happened to be Sean Paul, and Adrien saw this as a perfect opportunity to introduce Sean in an interesting way, to say the least. When it came down to introducing Sean's performance, Adrien came out dressed in fake dreadlocks and sporting a Jamaican accent. His bit was called out and was seen as very offensive and uncalled for, before, as he went off script to do this bit, which no one found funny in the slightest. Because this was such an epic and controversial fail, the actor was subsequently banned from coming back on the show. He faced a lot of backlash for his image for a while, but clearly he's bounced back since then. At number 4, Ashley Simpson. This was the moment that caused Ashley Simpson's career to crumble, and things haven't been the same since. I'm sure you all know the story about how Ashley was caught lip syncing during her SNL performance and how embarrassing it was. This was a defining moment for Ashley because she was supposed to be getting her name out there to gain more notoriety and to grow her music career, but after this slip up on the show, Ashley's name has been associated more with SNL fails than with the music industry, which is pretty unfair since she still brushed herself off after that incident and continued forward. Yes, this appearance pretty much destroyed her career, but she didn't let that stop her, which is good. At number 3, Chris Brown. Chris Brown seems to have gone on a journey to turn his life around after the incident that happened between him and Rihanna in 2009. After that moment, the public saw him very differently, and the singer was left picking up the pieces of his broken career. Things were rough for him in the years following the incident because the media labeled him as hot-headed, and this wasn't a good look for him, especially when he acted on said hot-headedness. In 2011, 2 years after the Rihanna incident, Chris Brown was a guest on Good Morning America and sat down with Robin Roberts for an interview to discuss his new album and to perform a song from said album. The interview and performance went sort of according to plan, but during his time on camera you could see Chris getting angry after Robin kept asking about his altercation with Rihanna. Chris kept trying to get her back on the topic of the album, but it didn't really work and he got really upset. As soon as the interview and performance were over, Chris stormed off the stage, took his shirt off, and threw a chair at a window, causing it to shatter and rain glass onto the street below. This interview made Chris look even worse in the eyes of the public, and it continued to affect his career negatively. At number 2, T.I. Back in November of 2019, rapper T.I. was a guest on a talk show podcast called Ladies Like Us podcast. Here the rapper opened up about his daughter, his relationship to her, and how he monitors his daughter's virginity. Yes, you heard that right. The rapper opened up about how he takes his daughter to a yearly gyno appointment to, quote, make sure her hymen is still intact, end quote. A woman's hymen is commonly associated with her virginity, even though there are many other ways it can be broken other than sex, but clearly T.I. didn't know that, and after telling a large audience about how he's so concerned about his daughter's purity, he faced a lot of backlash and was cancelled for a bit. Going more in depth into how these appointments go down, the rapper told the podcast audience that he had to fight the doctor to get his daughter's results because it was private information, but even after all of that drama wanting to make sure that things were to his standard, T.I. later went on to comment on people who haven't been intimate, saying, quote, who wants a virgin? Like really, all that work. And finally at number 1, Kathie Lee Gifford. Sometimes when celebrities are being interviewed, their words can become a topic of debate and they can even get cancelled for it. But here's a case where the person interviewing came under fire and it seriously affected their career and how people viewed them. Kathie Lee Gifford, best known for her time on Live with Regis and Kathie Lee, faced a lot of backlash after her Today Show interview with Martin Short caused quite a stir. Back in 2012, Martin sat down for an interview with Kathie to discuss his role in the film Madagascar 3, and during the interview, Kathie kept asking Martin about his wife. What she didn't realize at the time was the fact that his wife Nancy had actually passed away 2 years earlier after a battle with ovarian cancer. The interview was super cringe because you could tell that with every question about his wife, Kathie struck a nerve, but she did learn about her mistakes afterwards as Martin informed her of his wife's passing backstage. Kathie's comments were seen as insensitive by a lot of people, and even though she says it was an honest mistake, we already know that the public and cancel culture don't really care about that. Coming in number 10 today, we have Lea Michele. It's fair to say that Lea Michele is a celebrity whose reputation precedes her. The star who shot to fame after landing the lead role as Rachel Berry in Glee back in 2009, and since she's been the center of several scandals. Recently during her appearance on The Tonight Show, after the show aired, she would spark some fresh backlash after she could be seen moving Sadie Sink out of the way so she could take center stage. When Lea was announced on the show, she would walk onto the stage and she would briefly touch Sadie's arm before reaching across to shake Jimmy's hand. Even though Drake was closer to her than Jimmy, she stepped forward to shake his hand and awkwardly stood in front of Sadie until Sadie decided to move aside to give Lea her spot. In addition, soon after the introductions, Jimmy told Sadie to take a seat on the right of him and Lea to the left, and Sadie had to take a step back to accommodate Lea before crossing over to the stage so she could get to her designated spot. The situation did not go unnoticed, as soon fans would start to praise Sadie for being humble by the way she reacted to Lea's disrespect disrespectful and immature attitude. Number 9, Emma Roberts. Back in 2017, podcast host Jane Hunt and Robert Ackerman sparked a viral rumor that actor Lea Michele can't read or write. Since the podcast, fans have been pointing out moments that prove the actress couldn't read, and up until now it's pretty much just been a huge speculation. However, during an episode of Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, Emma Roberts decided to play coy about whether her friend Lea Michele could read, and by doing so, she would reveal that the rumors are actually true. During the interview, Andy Cohen would say to Emma that the biggest misconception people have about Lea Michele is that she can't read. Instead of shutting down the rumor, Emma decided to skirt around the question with a joke and said, well, we've not been in a book club together. While Michelle did try to confirm in a tweet back in 2018 that she can actually read, Emma's joke would definitely prove otherwise. Even though Emma did try to keep things sweet and try to offer some sweet support to her friend by shouting out her Broadway show, the part about Lea not being able to read definitely didn't go unnoticed. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming in number 8, we have Whoopi Goldberg. 2022 was filled with controversy for Whoopi Goldberg as she continues to rebuild her image in the spotlight. It appears that the crew at the ABC daytime favorite show has appeared to be lending a helping hand towards the star. On January 4th, joined by her former talk show members on an episode on The View, she took the spot of the moderator on the show, meaning she was in charge of teeing up links and starting debates and conversations. But Whoopi's prominence on the show didn't stop there, as an insider would soon reveal that the crowd was also encouraged to cheer her on the loudest. As the crowd was warmed up by comedian Regina DeSico, specifically, she told everyone to give a loud applause to Whoopi and then continue clapping for the other host. It seemed like the crew wanted Whoopi to get a standing ovation to make her feel like she was the star of the show. She also carried herself as if she had all the authority on the show, and she even was seen talking over the other co-hosts and interrupting them, which isn't exactly a great way to start her comeback. But if someone has to encourage the crowd to cheer for you the loudest, it's a pretty clear sign that your time in the industry is almost up. Number 7, Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison's time away from the Bachelor franchise has really started to take a toll on him. More than a year after he defended a contestant's previous racist behavior in an infamous extra interview, the TV personality has finally addressed all the controversy in a debut episode of the most dramatic podcast ever. In the episode, he would say, "I think I need time to figure out what I want to say. How I felt that mistake doesn't reflect who I am or what I stand for." While his extra comment marked the beginning of his Bachelor downfall, Chris has been left feeling heartbroken, gutted, and embarrassed, and he stated that the backlash took a toll in more than one way. In the podcast, Chris would also state that his comments made him feel sick and worry about his children, loved ones, and family, and since he decided to step down from his role on The Bachelor, he hasn't been able to watch the show, but he has been keeping an eye on the ratings and believes the show is declining in ratings because he's no longer on the show, and that hurts him a bit. Number 6, Sam Smith. Rumor has it that Adele and Sam Smith may have more in common than just their heavenly voices, as fans are speculating that they are actually the same person. During an episode of the Drew Barrymore show, Sam would reveal the craziest rumor they've ever heard about themselves, and it was that they were actually secretly the Hello singer in drag. In the episode, Sam would say, "Everyone seems to think that I'm Adele in drag because we've never been in the same room together. And if you slow down her voice, it sounds maybe a bit like mine. So people think we're the same person and I'm just in drag right now." While some fans in the past have made theories on social media, like one person tweeting in 2018, "Anyone notice Adele isn't at the Grammys this year? It's because Adele and Sam Smith are the same person and you never see them both in the same place at the same time." Others have even begun to mock the singer on Twitter, suggesting Sam made up the rumor, with one person tweeting, "Sam Smith says the craziest rumor they've heard about themselves is that they're secretly Adele in drag. Never heard that one before." And honestly, wherever the rumor stemmed from, someone definitely owes Adele an apology for this one. Number 5, James Corden. On January 2nd, 2023, James Corden appeared on the Drew Barrymore show, and James would be asked why he was leaving the CBS talk show after what would be 8 years on air. James would then recall a story from 2 summers ago when he was shooting his Amazon Prime video series Mammals. In an interaction with his son Max, who was now 10 at the time, it made him realize that he wanted to spend more summers with his son because he only had 6 more left. While James said he didn't want to cancel the show, he would then blame the situation on his son. However, the timing of him deciding to leave his show just seems more like a career move and reputation thing rather than a reason to spend more time with his son and family, because since entering into the spotlight, James has been a part of several controversies, such as back in October, the comedian's reputation took a huge hit after Keith McNally banned James from his restaurant in New York City and labeled him as a tying cretin of a man who was the most abusive customer he has ever seen, after James was caught yelling at a server who got his wife's egg yolk omelet wrong. Number 4, Chelsea Handler. While Chelsea didn't seem to end her career this year on a talk show, she did decide it was a good idea to mock several huge controversial topics from last year during her monologue at the 2023 Critics' Choice Awards. While the star went on to reference things like the Don't Worry Darling press tour, the Roe vs. Wade Supreme Court overturning. When announcing the cast of The Bear and that they were at the ceremony, Chelsea would then joke about the drama surrounding James Corden from a New York restaurant and how he showed us working in the restaurant industry is miserable. Chelsea then went on to mention that the controversial celebrity diet culture is just insane, and while Chelsea was trying to find a way to have a great time and make everyone feel comfortable, welcomed, and feel like they belonged and to be at the show, she definitely took things a little too far, and all she did was put herself into a little bit of a hole that's going to be difficult to climb out of to save her reputation and career. And not to mention, just a couple of days before, she would make an appearance on The Tonight Show where she would confess that she didn't realize that the sun and the moon weren't the same thing until she was 40. Yeah, let that one sink in. Number 3, Eddie Murphy. The original script for Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home originally had a large role written specifically for Eddie Murphy, who at the time was a box office star coming off the heels of a successful film, Beverly Hills Cops. And additionally, Eddie was interested in appearing in the movie as he was a big Star Trek fan. He even met with the producer, Harvey Benner, and director, Leonard Nimoy, to discuss the part, which he was ultimately decided to not take. When he turned down the role, he originally said it was because he thought making the movie Golden Child would be a better fit for his career, but then recently on his appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, he would offer up another explanation when he said, yeah, you know which one it is. It's the one where they go to San Francisco and they get the whales. I was going to be in that one. I met with them. They met when they got to San Francisco, and I said no. I want to go beam up and be on the ship, so I didn't do it. This definitely has some die-hard Star Trek fans screaming as they would have done anything to play this part in the film, and Eddie just turned it down because he wouldn't be beamed up into the ship. Number 2, Prince Harry. On January 8th, Prince Harry made his very first TV appearance since his highly anticipated memoir Spare was leaked. In a pre-recorded interview with the British anchor Tom Bradby, Harry would address some of the most explosive claims in his book that included his confession to taking substances and his fractured relationship with his family. While the star said he was grateful to have the chance to tell his story in his memory and said he'd still be part of the royal family, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to share this story. Many fans of the royal family have stated that Prince Harry definitely should have kept this book hidden in the closet with his dirty laundry, as he and Meghan have been slammed by newspaper columns and the media for a slew of lies that have caused them to mock the royal family as they try to move on and claim to live their own lives. Which has left us all to wonder when this is all just going to stop. Family feuds happen and it's normal. What's not normal is that you bring your family drama to the light and try to claim they wronged you without bringing any key facts to your story. Like, how do we know it's true at this point? And coming in number 1 today, we have Piers Morgan. Seems like Piers Morgan doesn't know how to stay out of the hot seat, as recently he would find himself surrounded by controversy once again, as this time he chose to go against the Queen of Pop after Madonna posted a video announcing her next tour. Morgan on his Talk TV show then said that Madonna, who is 64 years old, is a hot mess, and he even went out of his way to express suggests that she should be put out of the pasture. He also took the opportunity to criticize the fact that she still tries to be a foxy kitten even though she's over 60. After his show, he then decided to bring his rant to Twitter, where he said he thinks Madonna has become the biggest cringe-making fiasco in the entertainment world. Fans definitely weren't happy with Morgan's words, and many just continue to call him out on his insensitive, misogynistic, and even labeled him as a cruel person for his words.
At number 10, Hugh Grant. Hugh was once banned from The Daily Show after having a really bad interview that really affected the show's host because the actor was being so rude. Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show, said in an interview that Hugh Grant was the absolute worst guest he'd had on the show. He spoke about how when Hugh was on to promote his film Did You Hear About the Morgans, Hugh was making a huge scene backstage and was just being really mean and annoying to the people who were working on set. Apparently, Hugh was allegedly going around saying that he had better places to be. He also got really upset about the clip that they played from the film, saying, quote, "What is that clip? It's a terrible clip," to which Jon replied, telling Hugh to make a better movie. You could really tell that Jon was fed up with Hugh and his attitude on the show. Jon went on to say that because of his poor experience with Hugh, he'd never have him back on his show. At number 9, Harmony Korine. I think it's an unspoken rule that when you're a guest somewhere, you should try to be on your best behavior. One person who really should have followed this rule is director Harmony Korine, who's best known for the movie Spring Breakers. There was once a time when Harmony made a number of appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman in the mid to late 90s. This was also during a time when Harmony was reportedly on a lot of drugs. Though he was a frequent guest on the show, his appearances just stopped all of a sudden, and no one really knew why until 2013, when Letterman revealed the truth as to why the director was banned from coming on the show. Apparently, Letterman caught the director going through Meryl Streep's purse one time, and that was just the last straw for the late night host. When talking about this fateful event, Letterman said, quote, "I went upstairs to greet Meryl Streep and welcome her to the show. I knocked on the door and she was not there. I looked around and saw Harmony going through her purse. True story. And so I said, that's it, put her things back in her bag and get out." End quote. After that, Harmony was no longer welcome on the show and hasn't been back since. Before we carry on talking about these rude celebrities, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Bobcat Goldthwait. I think this goes without saying, but don't go setting fire to things. Back in 1994, actor Bobcat Goldthwait was a guest on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during his guest appearance, the actor decided to just randomly set fire to his chair. At the time, Jay thought this was just a spontaneous bit, but in reality, Bobcat came prepared for this as he brought lighter fluid and a lighter that was hidden up his sleeve. Luckily, the other guest who was there that night, Lauren Hutton, was quick on her feet and doused the flames with a cup of water. Jay, understandably, was very unhappy with all this and banned Bobcat from the show. Not only that, but the actor was also charged with arson for this stunt and was ordered to pay over $3,300 in fines, some of which went towards replacing the chair he set fire to. He literally damaged the set, and if that's not rude, then I don't know what is. At number 7, Piers Morgan. I feel like when a celebrity asks for something specific, it should be given to them. I'm not talking about anything material like demanding a cup of ice chips or something. I mean a specific request in reference to the way that they're treated. For actor Kelsey Grammer, he made a very specific request when he was doing an interview with Piers Morgan, and when that request wasn't honored, there was a falling out that led to the actor being banned from the show because of the drama. When the actor made a guest appearance on Piers Morgan Tonight back in 2012, he requested that a picture of his ex-wife not be shown. He's willing to answer questions about her, but just didn't want to have a photo of her to be aired. Well, Piers didn't exactly honor that request, and when a photo of the ex-wife was shown, Kelsey stormed off set. The actor's publicist said that Piers had to take accountability for his actions because Kelsey was so mad about the situation, but instead, Piers barred the actor from his show. That was pretty rude of him. At number 6, Gene Simmons. I think we can all agree that Gene Simmons is kind of outlandish. He's a guy with a lot of energy and no filter, so when it comes to interviewing him live, you never know what he might say, but you can only hope that it won't be too offensive. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They liked the guy and liked having him on their show, but after causing a stir during during a meeting at Fox and making some rude comments towards some of the other staff members, Jean got banned for life, and it was a hot topic of its own. Some of the things that Jean said to some of the women at the network got leaked, and it's not something you would want to have said to you. Let's just put it that way. After all of that went down, the singer was not welcomed back on their programming because they didn't like the way he behaved. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne found herself in some hot water earlier last year after she made some comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that not only caused her to get backlash, but also lose a friend. Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's comments about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Pierce's comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this frustrated Cheryl because she didn't like the comments that were being made about those involved. The two got into a very heated debate that ended with a lot of drama, sparking a conversation about Sharon's ideals. She was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts. As a result of this, the network for their show launched an internal investigation, and that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. At number 4, Kelly Osbourne. Now, we just talked about Sharon Osbourne and her talk show scandal, but her daughter Kelly has also been in her share of controversies, including one that happened while on a talk show that kind of ruined her career because of a rude comment that she made. During an episode of The View, Kelly Osbourne really missed the mark when trying to clap back at Donald Trump, even though she was trying to diss Trump, and ended up getting in enough trouble herself. Just shortly before this episode aired, Donald Trump, who was at the time only a presidential nominee, was saying offensive things about the Latinx community and how he wanted to deport them. I'm sure we're all familiar with this one. Well, in a very poor attempt at clapping back at Trump's racist comments, Kelly said, quote, "If you kick every Latina out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" What Kelly was trying to do was defend the Latinx community, but rather than stand up for them, she ended up offending them even more, as her remarks were interpreted as saying that the Latinx community is only good for being housekeepers, as depicted in many racial stereotypes. After facing so much backlash and realizing the gravity of her words, Kelly issued an apology saying, quote, "I want to start by saying I always take responsibility for my actions. In this particular case, I will take responsibility for my poor choice of words, but I will not apologize for being a racist, as I am not." At number 3, James Corden. Recently, TV host James Corden found himself in some trouble with fans after his Spill Your Guts segment of his show started facing backlash. Fans were calling for James to take accountability after he made some comments about some Asian foods that he had on the show that some fans thought were offensive. Because the foods that they use in the Spill Your Guts segment are supposed to be ones that you wouldn't eat, the fact that some Asian foods like balut were used and called, quote, "disgusting," made a lot of people take to the internet to call for accountability and an apology from James Corden. Apparently, James had been making these types of comments about a lot of different Asian dishes on a few occasions, so some people have said enough is enough and even created a petition calling for the removal of the Spill Your Guts segment. At number 2, Mark Summers. When it comes to talk shows, sometimes you can never predict what's gonna happen. These shows are often used to catch up with a celebrity and just talk about life and whatnot, but sometimes these conversations can turn into brawls when the wrong thing is said, and this is pretty much what happened between Burt Reynolds and Mark Summers in 1994 when they were both guests on Jay Leno's talk show. The two men got into a heated brawl after some jokes were made that offended the both of them. Essentially, Mark Summers made a comment about how he was still married, while Burt at the time was going through a divorce, and it made Burt pretty upset. In retaliation, Burt threw some water at Mark, and that's what sparked the fight. It gets to the point where Jay Leno just can't keep the show together because his guests were fighting so much, and producers even went so far as to bring out pies for Mark and Burt to make it look like this fight was staged. After this, people got talking, and some people came to the conclusion that this brawl was uncalled for, and since Mark started it, he felt the most backlash. And finally, at number 1, Ellen. In late 2019, actress Dakota Johnson sat down for an interview with Ellen, and some people see this interview as the one that started this whole Ellen is mean scandal because of how rude Ellen was. During the interview, Ellen berated Dakota about the fact that she wasn't invited to Dakota's birthday party. People saw this whole debate as incredibly unnecessary, but the part that people loved the most was how Dakota shut Ellen down. When Ellen said that she was mad for not being invited to Dakota's birthday party, Dakota in response said, quote, "Actually no, that's not the truth, Ellen, you were invited. No, last time when I was on the show last year, you gave me a bunch of crap about not inviting you, but I didn't even know you wanted to be invited." End quote. Dakota was even backed up by one of the show's producers who reassured Ellen that she was invited and that she just didn't show up because at the time, she claimed that Dakota's Malibu party was, quote, "a little too far for her." Dakota noticed shutting Ellen down and not being made to look like the bad guy Ellen intended was great for fans, and following Ellen's cancellation, fans started to realize just how rude Ellen was.
Number 10. Mike Tyson. It's hard to pick just one Mike Tyson meltdown, so let's talk about all of them. He got his start in the world of professional boxing in the early 80s, but as the years went by, more and more controversies came to light. This is probably why he has such a troubled history with interviewers. In the mid-90s, he was speaking with a news anchor for Channel 5 News when he became annoyed at the line of questioning, suggesting that his recent 6-month hiatus may threaten his ability to box. Mike said, "F you," and a few other things that I'm not allowed to quote. But that wasn't even close to the level of fury that this dude is capable of. During a press tour for his latest bout in the early 2000s, he was wrapping up an interview when he lashed out at a fan in the crowd and started hurling insults at him left and right, calling them the British word for cancer sticks. The clip became viral overnight and placed his career even further into jeopardy than it already was. But he finally drove that last nail into the coffin on CP24's Breakfast Television after somehow maintaining enough relevance to get a one-man show. Mike was sitting down with host Nathan Downer to promote the show when the interview took a hard left and went from "So what's this thing about?" to "So should you even be allowed on stage, you gross man?" It's not exactly what the interviewer said, but apparently that is exactly what Mike heard. He stopped answering the questions honestly and instead started responding with sarcastic insults and more F words and several threats towards the anchor. Seriously, whoever keeps letting that guy on camera really needs to stop. Number 9. Tom Cruise. Matt Lauer's not just a terrible dude who turned out to be creepy, he was once a popular talk show host in the early 2000s. During an interview with Tom Cruise in 2005, the topic of his scientific beliefs came up that quickly sent him into a rant about psychiatry. Somehow this topic got onto Ritalin and pseudosciences, and Tom started yelling at Matt about knowing more than him, like he had some kind of inside information that he was a secret therapist or something. The interview came at the height of Tom's very public descent into chaotic badness, becoming very famous for his outlandish beliefs and his wish to push them onto other people. The highlight of the interview came when Cruise was asked about his previous criticisms of Brooke Shields taking anti-sad time pills, to which he responded to calling Matt a glib. I don't know what that means, but look it up. This is only one of several interviews from 2005 that we could discuss today, but something tells me it won't be the last time that Tom appears on this list. Wink wink, nudge nudge, he's gonna be back. Number 8. Cardi B. In 2017, rapper Cardi B and model Asia Davies appeared on an episode of VH1's Love and Hip Hop talk show. Things started getting heated very quickly when the topic of Asia's ex-boyfriend Swift came up. According to Davies, she was convinced that Cardi and Swift were intimate together while she was still dating Swift. Cardi responded to the accusations by throwing her stiletto at Asia's face. She then jumped up and began making her way towards the model, but was stopped by 2 large security guards. Good thing too, considering on the other side of the room, Asia had been doing the exact same thing and was also being held back. An all-out brawl almost took place, but the altercation ended up being the pair yelling at each other across the room, with Cardi's main grievance being the judgment placed upon her by Davies for being an exotic dancer before her time as a music artist. While Davies claimed that wasn't the case, it was very clear from both their verbal and physical language that someone was holding something back. Number 7. Quentin Tarantino. While doing press for his latest masterpiece Django Unchained in 2013, critically acclaimed director Quentin Tarantino was involved in a very confrontational interview with Channel 4 news anchor Krishnan Guru Murthy. The interview was intended to be a bit of press for the project, but it quickly turned into a small profile piece on Quentin, with Krishnan asking him about several topics not related to the movie. He asked about Quentin's opinion on the backlash the project seemed to be receiving, before moving on to a broader subject on why he seems to enjoy putting so many graphic scenes in his movies. This is the moment that he snaps. Not only has he answered that question several times in the past, it literally had nothing to do with what he was brought on the show to discuss. Refusing to answer the question, Tarantino tells Krishnan that he is shutting his butt down. He had been nothing but accommodating up until that point, reacting fairly well to some of the more sensitive questions that he was asking, but he went too far and the director let this man have it. This wasn't the only time that Krishnan has caused a celebrity to lose their cool. A few years ago, he was interviewing Robert Downey Jr. about Age of Ultron when he once again went off script and asked him about his dark past rather than the project that he was promoting. This made Robert quickly stand up and thank him, remove his mic, and just walk away. Seriously, this dude needs to stop being put on camera. Number 6. Kanye West. Kanye was slowly going mad in the eyes of the public way back in 2010. As the years went by, he's made more and more TV appearances, but it wasn't until 2018 where his political beliefs got him heated on Jimmy Kimmel. When Jimmy asked Kanye how he felt about the response to his decree that he was all for President at the time Donald Trump, which was largely criticized, he defended his statements by claiming that he did not have to conform to some united mindset and that he was a little bit upset at the backlash, but that a part of him kind of enjoyed the hate. He then suggested the world was in a simulation, claiming that the world is just filled with unpaid actors. The over 20-minute interview was filled with metaphors, the concept of love, and a comparison to the Son of God. This interview was only a short time after his anti-Semitic tweets were circulating the internet. Ye even makes a joke about the anxiety of asking his publicist to appear on the show. He was fairly calm in his delivery of his opinions, but he made sure his opinions were known. Number 5. Steve-O. Steve was once a world-famous stuntman whose journey to sobriety is truly inspirational. Unfortunately, in his early years of fame, Steve was known for having a sweet tooth for illegal substances. This made him an excellent guest on late-night talk shows. Host of On Too Late, Adam Carolla, found out the hard way that you should never encourage Steve to do anything before he gets on camera. During one late-night appearance in the mid-2000s, the host is definitely on a few things. The host suggested that he had a few adult beverages in preparation for a game, but his speech is slurred beyond comprehension other than the B word being hurled at the audience over and over again. You know, the one that rhymes with snitch. He then begins to tell the host that he loves him, but he will end his life right there, and then he sloppily hugs Adam before trying to flip his chair with him inside of it. His issue with substances was very well documented throughout the years, but this late night appearance will forever live rent-free in my skull. Thankfully, as I mentioned, he won this battle and he's currently 15 years sober now, spending most of his time running a podcast with Adam. I have so much respect for this guy. He went from to, okay, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Kombucha Kings. Number 4. Bobcat Goldthwait. Allow me to start this entry with an impression of Bobcat Goldthwait smelling something he likes. Thank you. Bobcat may not be much of an actor these days, but in the 80s and the 90s, he was dominating the film and comedy scene. His zany brand of over-the-top, high-energy performance was well received by any and all who saw him. I can still hear his voice echoing in my skull whenever I think of Police Academy. In 1994, comedian Arsenio Hall invited his longtime buddy Bobcat onto his talk show, which unfortunately was in its final days on air. When Bobcat heard the cancellation, he decided to send a message to the big brains that made the decision. He spray paints the word Paramount on the wall behind him, throws furniture around, breaks TV screens, all while Arsenio just kinda sits back and laughs. When they returned from commercial, the set was in ruins. Despite that though, Arsenio joked, saying, the worst part is I have to pretend like I'm mad at him. Joke's on him, that wasn't the only talk show meltdown that he's partaken in. A few years after this, Bobcat set a chair on fire on Jay Leno's show. For no reason, just for fun. Like he was standing there just going, oh, fire, yeah. Man, that guy was unhinged. He was fined over $3,000 and made to replace the chair. Oh, and in case you haven't noticed, he hasn't been asked to appear on any talk shows ever again. Number 3, Tom Cruise. Again. I told you he'd be back. Returning for another round on our list, you don't think we'd forget about Oprah, did you? Following the announcement that he got engaged to Katie Holmes in the early 2000s, Tom appeared on an episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show that has gone down in history as one of the most chaotic TV interviews of all time. From the moment he steps on the stage, things just begin to go horribly wrong. He throws his arms up in the air, he rubs Oprah's shoulders like she's got a stain that he just won't come out. Tom jumped on her couch, he grabbed her hands over and over, she couldn't even get the questions that she had out. Eventually Oprah was like, whatever, just bring Katie out, and the cameras followed Tom as he ran around the studio trying to find her like he was a nature guy running through a jungle with his camera crew behind him. The moment cemented Tom as a man with many hidden personalities. While it has not affected his work as an actor per se, ever since that day whenever he's brought in for press or any kind of interview, all entrances and exits must be locked at all times. Number 2, Crispin Glover. Crispin may not be very active in the Hollywood Hollywood mainstream these days, but he has most certainly been in some of your top 10 favorite flicks. Being featured in movies like Charlie's Angels and Back to the Future, Crispin was always considered to be an eccentric man both on and off camera. In 1987, he made one of the most notorious appearances in late night television history. He was a guest on The Late Night Show with David Letterman and was supposed to promote a new indie flick called River's Edge. Instead, he delivered one of the most bizarre interviews of all time without any clear reason why. Many have speculated over the years that this was a staged bit, but nobody has ever actually confirmed that story. From the moment Crispin is brought on set, he seems to be distressed. He wore strange clothes, including black platform shoes, and instead of answering questions about the project, he decided to rant about his portrayal by the media, literally pulling out press clips and quoting them on the air. He claimed people thought that he was weak, and then challenged David to an arm wrestling match before getting out of his chair and delivering a high kick into David's direction. Getting just within inches of his face, David giggled and cut the interview short. Whether it was staged or not, Crispin's infamous interview will go down in history as one of the strangest of all time. And at number 1, of course, it's Charlie Sheen. Charlie rose to fame in the early 1980s after starring in a slew of cult classic flicks like Red Dawn, The Boys Next Door, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off in a brief but memorable cameo. He fell into the mainstream in 2003 when he began playing the character Charlie Harper in the hit sitcom 2.5 Men. So good that even just mentioning it gets the theme song stuck in your head. However, in 2009 he was arrested for attempting to harm his wife Brooke Mueller on several occasions. At the time of his arrest, both parties had been indulging in adult beverages, with Sheen becoming enraged beyond control. Following this, a restraining order was placed prohibiting Sheen from being within 100 feet of both Brooke and their kids. Despite all the controversy, Charlie was later seen doing breasts for an upcoming movie on the Today Show. When the interviewer asked Charlie what was behind his sudden behavior, claiming that he was being perceived as an angry and erratic man, but Sheen responded with no, it's my passion, before launching into a no snow-fueled tirade. Charlie's interview was defensive to say the least, with his energy just being weird and aggressive the entire time. Ever since then, Charlie has maintained a strange air of arrogance towards himself, and he still seems to think that he's the king of TV and quote, winning, when in reality this is probably the first time you've heard about him in a while.
Number 10, Clive Anderson. It's important to note that while all late night hosts do work hard to remember what projects every single one of their guests is promoting, they can easily get mixed up from time to time, and that's exactly what brought forth one of the most awkward encounters in UK TV history. When the Bee Gees appeared on Clive Anderson's All Talk in 1997, they grew so tired of his continuous jokes about their music that they infamously just got up and walked off set. As a poor attempt at humor, the host made remarks about the group's appearance and said that he thought the band were sisters rather than brothers, and that only his dog loves their high-pitched music. But the big turning point came when Anderson said that the band will always be Les Tossers to me, and you could literally see Barry Gibb's face begin to darken. To make matters worse, when the singer tried to talk about a song that he had written earlier in his career, saying he had forgotten that one. Clearly not loving the atmosphere, Barry became sarcastic and said, "We're getting on like a storm, aren't we, Clive?" before getting up on his feet and cursing at the host. He got up and left, and after even more awkwardness, the other two eventually did the same. Number 9, Katie Couric. In 2014, the television personality invited trans model Carmen Carrera to appear on her talk show Katie. After Carmen discussed her modeling career, Couric began asking her really invasive questions about her transition, like, was the whole process painful physically for you? And your private parts are different now, aren't they? As the questions were becoming increasingly personal and insensitive, Carmen finally decided to say something. Quote, "I don't want to talk about it because it's really personal. I'd rather talk about my modeling stuff. I'd rather talk about being in W and maybe being in Italian Vogue and doing fun stuff and showing people that after the transition, there's still life to live." It was actually a great opportunity for Carmen to demonstrate that she is more than her transition, and that being trans is not the most interesting thing about her. For her part, Couric received some pretty intense backlash for her line of questioning, especially when Orange is the New Black star Laverne Cox appeared on the show and told the host that she was objectifying Carmen. It wasn't until 2017 that Couric revealed that she had the opportunity to cut the segment out of the interview altogether, but decided to keep it in as an educational moment for her audience. So she definitely learned something from the experience. Number 8, Jessica Simpson. Of all the celebrity talk show fails, this one is easily one of the messiest and the hardest to watch. When the singer appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show in 2017, it quickly became
became clear that she had had one too many. Jessica slurred her words and fumbled over a range of topics, including the length of her marriage to Eric Johnson, which she said she couldn't remember, and then started talking about contraception, saying, "We got an IUD, nothing's going to get into that uterus." And when Ellen asked her about whether she was expanding her billion-dollar business, Jessica started rambling about vitamins and B12 energy. When asked if she's making more music, she claimed that she is, but she struggled to remember just how many songs she actually has. Quote, "I probably have about 38 or maybe 36 or 39, and Ellen said bluntly, "You don't have 38 songs." It really wasn't until 2020 that the singer addressed the incident in her tell-all memoir called Open Book, when she admitted to having drank before going on air. She claims that she's still so embarrassed by her behavior that she can't bring herself to watch the interview almost 3 years later because it was a weak moment for her and she said she wasn't in the right place. But in recent years, she seems to be doing a whole lot better. Number 7. Harry Belafonte. This one is truly hilarious. The singer appeared on Eyewitness News to promote a documentary made about himself named Sing Your Song. But what viewers got out of the interview was a laugh, all because Harry was fast asleep when the anchor tried to speak with him. Eventually, the newscaster Layla Santiago ended up shouting at him, saying, "This is your wake-up call. He's meditating, he's taking a little nap," which caused all 3 newscasters on the show to erupt in laughter. His publicist later told the station that it was a technical glitch and that his earpiece wasn't working, so he decided to take the time to meditate before the interview. His publicist added that Mr. Belafonte is 84 years young, but sharper and more awake than most who have been interviewing him. Maybe the world would be a better place if more people took a moment to meditate. But in Belafonte's defense, it was probably pretty early in the morning during a time of filming. Whatever happened, the clip, which was from 10 years ago, only recently went viral after it was used to create a deepfake footage of President Biden dozing off while being live on air. Number 6. Dua Lipa. At first, the interview seemed to be going really well until some awkward questions were asked by Dua Lipa that made everyone watching pretty uncomfortable. During an episode of The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, Dua was guest hosting and she accidentally referred to Gwen Stefani's partner at the time, Blake Shelton, as her husband when they were not married. She started off the friendly conversation by saying, "So I heard that you've been spending quarantine with your husband Blake Shelton at the ranch in Oklahoma. Who else was with you? How was that?" But after a little silence, Gwen just replied by saying, "Well, he's not my husband, but that sounded cool when you said that." But what really fixed this moment is the fact that after 5 years together, Gwen Stefani and Blake Shelton did go on to get married. What's even funnier is that she posted about the engagement on Instagram, and Dua Lipa actually commented on the news by referencing the cringy moment and wrote, "I guess our little interview aged well. Congratulations, best news." But whether or not Jimmy Fallon regretted having her on as a guest judge is something that still remains to be seen. Number 5. Katy Perry. Katy Perry's 2017 interview with Ellen DeGeneres is a disaster from start to finish, and they're both partially to blame, although for different reasons. Things grew awkward really fast when Ellen forgot that Katy had once been married to Russell Brand. During a game of Will You Parry Me, a game where the singer was asked which celebrity crush she found more attractive, Katy said, "Do I have to get married again?" After a pause, Ellen looked genuinely confused and she just said, "You are not married?" To which Katy said, "I was, when I was 25. Remember you gave me some wedding gifts on the show?" When the moment was becoming a little too embarrassing for the singer, she began making scissor motions, telling Ellen to cut this part of the interview out. But it only got worse from then on as Ellen launched into the game, which made a slightly unhinged Katy pick between Harry Styles, Chris Martin, and Leonardo DiCaprio. But she got a little too honest and said, "What if I've already kissed a bunch of these people?" The whole episode led to speculations that Katy was tipsy during filming, but we'll never really know the truth. Number 4. Kourtney Kardashian. For the Keeping Up with the Kardashian star, one of the biggest live TV fails came with her interview in 2016, just weeks after Kim Kardashian's horrific Paris robbery ordeal. Shortly afterwards, Kourtney appeared on Australian program The Today Show to talk about her latest project, before the hosts attempted to turn the conversation towards Kim. Quote, "We're very sympathetic and horrified, so we were wondering, how is everyone going? How is Kim doing?" Kourtney looked really frustrated and just said, before looking at somebody else in the room, most likely her publicist. An awkward silence ensued as her whole face went blank and she looked beyond the camera, muttering something under her breath about having someone come in. The presenters were confused as well, before they realized what was going on. David Campbell asked, "Hello, Kourtney, have we lost you?" Before the silence became unbearable and Kardashian's face disappeared off screen. The host became frustrated at the response and insisted that Kourtney should have just said that her sister was fine. To this day, her response has fans divided over whether or not it was even appropriate. And number 3. Ellen DeGeneres DeGeneres. Celine Dion was not the least bit amused when she went on The Ellen Show in 2007 and got criticized for the fact that her son had long hair. Trying to be funny, Ellen outright told Celine that she was forgetting to cut her son's hair, then showed a photo of the cute little boy with shoulder-length hair. The issue is that Celine has probably gotten that same line from countless other people and was very tired of hearing about it. Ellen did not expect her to take the question to heart the way she did, and suddenly the tension in the room was so thick that you could cut it with a knife. Celine then began defending the length of her child's hair, asking Ellen if she had a problem with it. Quote, "Some people shave the head of their children and people say, oh, isn't that terrible? Well, I don't even cut my son's hair, and they say, oh my gosh, when is she going to cut her son's hair, you know? Whatever I do, I won't please anyone." She then explained that it was her son who made his own decision to keep his hair long, but Ellen had already sensed that she had made a mistake and swiftly changed the topic to Celine's music career after the uncomfortable moment. Number 2, David Letterman. Even though Lindsay Lohan visited The Late Show in 2013 with the intention of promoting Scary Movie 5, David Letterman spent the majority of the interview talking about the star's forthcoming return to rehab. This one was really bad because as soon as she sat down, Letterman said the actress looked remarkably well in a condescending tone. He then began asking invasive questions about whether or not Lohan steals things and manages her money responsibly. Despite all of her attempts to change the topic of conversation, the host kept going back to the question of rehab, like when was she gonna go, why was she going, and how long she planned to stay there. Eventually, the actress became frustrated and just said that they didn't discuss this in the pre-interview, while asking Letterman to focus on the positive. But even though she was clearly uncomfortable, he once again brought it up, and so by the end of the conversation, Lohan was literally in tears. The interview resurfaced online last year and has since sparked a wave of backlash against the veteran talk show host, who, in all fairness, has a pretty problematic history when it comes to making women uncomfortable on his show. Number 1, Cardi B. This one really takes the cake. On the after show of Love and Hip Hop New York, host Nina Parker asked cast member Asia Davies a question about her relationship with fellow co-star and ex-Swift, but before Asia could respond, Cardi sent a heel flying in Asia's direction, a signature move that we all know way too well. Cardi then demanded that Asia admit that she had an issue with her. Quote, "You judged me because I was a stripper, say the truth." It was immediately clear why the two had been positioned so far away. After trash talking her for a little bit, the artist was ready to throw down again with Asia. In fact, Cardi needed a whole team to keep her from laying hands on her rival. But the rapper may have been right in this situation because Swift admitted that Asia did not respect Cardi because of her past. He allegedly had to explain to her several times that she was no longer a stripper, and she's moved on from that and is making music now. So when Asia refused to answer the question about why she didn't give Cardi a chance, her rival went into full attack mode. And what ensued is the televised disaster that you can still watch to this day.
At number 10, Hugh Grant. You don't really hear too much about Hugh Grant these days, so when I found out that he was banned from somewhere, I was actually pretty shocked. He was banned from The Daily Show after having a really bad interview that affected the show's host. Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show, said in an interview that Hugh Grant was the absolute worst guest he'd ever had on the show. He spoke about how when Hugh was on to promote his film Did You Hear About the Morgans, Hugh was making a huge scene backstage and was really mean and annoying to the people who were working on set. Apparently, Hugh was allegedly going around saying that he had better places to be. He also got really upset about the clip that they played from the film, saying, quote, "What is that clip? It is a terrible clip." To which Jon replied, telling Hugh to make a better movie. You could really tell that Jon was fed up with Hugh and his attitude on the show. Jon went on to say that because of his poor experience with Hugh, he would never have him back on his show. At number 9, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is known for being pretty outspoken and controversial at times, and it's because of her antics that she's been banned from just about every talk show. Because of her unpredictable actions, use of crude language, and her problematic past, she isn't welcome on shows like The View, The Today Show, Ellen, Regis and Kelly, Jay Leno, Letterman, and many others. She's racked up a lot of these bans over the years, but some new ones, like being fired from CNN, come from the backlash that she gained after the Donald Trump incident where she posed with a fake bloodied model of Donald Trump's head. She's been known to ruffle people's feathers on live TV and pull stunts that are inappropriate for broadcast. For example, during her time hosting the New Year's Eve special with Anderson Cooper on CNN, she used profanity and even removed some of her clothing on TV. On top of that, she's offended people during award shows while making speeches and making inappropriate comments. Though she's been banned from certain TV shows, I really think that people just want her banned from the media in general because of her actions. Now, before I carry on talking about more celebrities banned from late night programs, I would first like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really helps the channel out and we appreciate you guys supporting our platform. At number 8, Harmony Korine. I think it's common knowledge, at least to most people, that when you're a guest somewhere, you should try and be on your best behavior. Most people follow this unspoken rule, but many others don't, especially celebrities, as we will see throughout this list. One person who really should have tried to behave themselves is director Harmony Korine, who's best known for the movie Spring Breakers. There was once a time when Harmony made a number of appearances on The Late Show with David Letterman in the mid to late 90s. This was also during a time when Harmony was reportedly on a lot of drugs. Though he was a frequent guest on the show, his appearances just stopped all of a sudden, and no one really knew why until 2013 when Letterman revealed the truth as to why the director was banned from coming on the show. Apparently, Letterman caught the director going through Meryl Streep's purse one time, and that was just the last straw for the late night host. When talking about this fateful event, Letterman said, quote, "I went upstairs to greet Meryl Streep and welcome her to the show. I knocked on the door and she wasn't there. I looked around and found Harmony going through her purse. True story. And so I said, that's it, put her things back in her bag and then get out." End quote. After that, Harmony was no longer welcome on the show and has not been back since. At number 7, Bobcat Goldthwait. I think that this goes without saying, but don't go setting fire to random things. I know Adele said set fire to the rain, but that was just a metaphor. Clearly though, one guest on Jay Leno didn't quite get the memo because they ended up setting a fire during their interview on The Late Night Show. Back in 1994, actor Bobcat Goldthwait was a guest on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and during his guest appearance, the actor decided to randomly set fire to his chair. At the time, Jay thought that this was just a spontaneous bit, but in reality, Bobcat came prepared for this as he brought lighter fluid and a lighter that was hidden up his sleeve. Luckily, the other guest who was there that night, Lauren Hutton, was quick on her feet and doused the flames with a cup of water. Jay, understandably, was very unhappy with all this and banned Bobcat from the show. Not only that, but the actor was also charged with arson for his stunt and was ordered to pay over $3,300 in fines, some of which went towards replacing the chair that he set fire to. Not too sure why he decided to make this interview go up in flames like that, but at least he won't be able to pull that stunt again. At least not with Jay. At number 6, Dax Shepard. Actor and comedian Dax Shepard has been very open about his struggles with substance abuse for some time now. He's opened up about some of the lowest points in his career that was caused by his substance abuse, including one time that got him banned from a late night show. Dax told a story about how he was once preparing to be on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2004, but when he was doing the pre-interview, he blacked out. Dax didn't remember any of the pre-interview where he was supposed to go over the talking points for the evening, and by the time his real interview started, he was so lost. He went into detail saying, quote, "I show up on the show and I don't know what he's talking about. I can tell he's queuing me up for stories I've told, but I don't know any of the stories." End quote. Because of how badly he messed up his interview, he was banned from the show for a few years until he got sober. Years later, he was welcomed back on the show and all was forgiven, but it was still a low point for the actor. At number 5, Jay Leno. This next ban was caused by one serious feud between Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien. Because both men were talented late night hosts, there were a lot of pitches from different networks trying to poach one or the other to take over talk shows and whatnot. Well, things got kind of heated when Conan was promised the hosting gig for The Tonight Show when Jay's contract was up. As you would imagine, Jay didn't take the news very well, and so he decided to start his own show, The Jay Leno Show, which aired before Conan's. Well, when neither of their shows were bringing in good ratings, the network reshuffled the time slots, gave Conan's slot to Jay, and bumped Conan's show back half an hour. Conan didn't like that, took a payout, and The Tonight Show fell back into Jay's hands. Later on, when asked if he would have Jay on an episode of his show, Conan shut that down, essentially saying that Jay would have been banned from his program. There was just a lot of bitterness between them, and the water under that bridge has certainly dried up. At number 4, Gary Busey. A lot of people enjoy their personal space. I know that there are many people who love getting close to others and who are very physical people, but you know, not everybody likes that. Getting upset when someone invades your personal space without permission is pretty understandable, and this notion is what got Gary Busey banned from the Howard Stern Show. Back in 2001, actor Gary Busey was on the Howard Stern Show and seemed to have ignored the notion of personal space, and that rubbed Howard the wrong way. While on the show, the actor picked up Howard's co-host, Robin Quivers, giving him a big bear hug, and even chased Howard around the studio trying to wrestle him. Howard really didn't like what Gary was doing that day, and so he promptly banned him from coming back on the show. When Gary explained the motives behind his actions, he blamed it on his quote, 13 separate personalities. He continued to say that he was just really excitable that day, but that wasn't a good enough excuse to get him back onto the show until 2017, when he was invited to do an audio-only interview with Howard. At number 3, Howard Stern. But speaking of Howard Stern, he himself has been banned from a late night show. Apparently, he and Jay Leno have had beef ever since Howard's 1995 appearance on The Tonight Show. This appearance was pretty chaotic. Howard entered onto the show with 2 women in bikinis and prompted the women to start kissing each other on air. On top of that, Howard kept speaking over Jay and other guests while on the show as well. Jay was apparently so fed up with Howard and his antics that he nearly walked off set, and was so mad about the way that the show turned out that evening that he later called into Howard's show to say that he had, quote, gone beyond the acceptable standards. After that, Howard was banned, and he and Jay have had beef ever since. At number 2, Donald Trump. Now, to find out that Donald Trump has been banned from any kind of talk show really isn't all that surprising. So many hosts from various shows have banned the former president, but this next ban is a little juicier because it kind of involves some beef between the Donald and late night host Seth Meyers. In 2016, the late night talk show host issued a ban against Donald Trump in retaliation for Trump having revoked Seth's Washington Post credentials. Though it was an official ban, it was also done as a joke since Seth already knew that Donald would never be on a show anyway, but it was about the principle. In a joke statement to Donald, Seth said, quote, "We instituted this ban despite the fact that he's never been here or asked to be here or would never be caught dead here. I just think that it takes an amazing amount of courage on our part. So the ball is in your court, Donald. Either rescind your Washington Post ban or you're not allowed to appear on the show you have no interest in appearing on. Although maybe now that you can't have it, you're changing your mind." End quote. And finally, at number 1, Oprah Winfrey. This last ban seems to have been more so self-imposed. After making an appearance on David Letterman's show in 1989, Oprah Winfrey issued a self-imposed ban, refusing to go back on Letterman's show. After what she experienced on the show, Oprah and Letterman seem to have had some kind of feud going on, though it was more low-key than others. As for what happened to cause this self-imposed ban, well, Oprah finally opened up about the event that caused this back in 2013, saying, quote, "It was a terrible experience for me. The guy in the audience started yelling, 'Get her, Dave.' You were sort of baiting the audience and there were a bunch of drunk guys down the front. I was trying to mitigate the whole thing. It felt so uncomfortable for me. I didn't want to have that experience again." End quote. Basically, she was just really uncomfortable on the show and wanted to forget about the event, hence her minor beef with the late night host, and she just didn't want a repeat of that unpleasant experience. At number 10, Mark Summers. When it comes to talk shows, sometimes you can never predict what's going to happen. These shows are often used to catch up with a celebrity and just talk about life and whatnot, but sometimes these conversations can turn into brawls when the wrong thing is said, and this is pretty much what happened between Burt Reynolds and Mark Summers in 1994 when they were both guests on Jay Leno's talk show. The two men got into a pretty heated brawl after some jokes were made that rubbed them the wrong way. Essentially, Mark Summers made a comment about how he was still married while Burt at the time was going through a divorce, and it made him pretty upset. In retaliation, Burt threw some water at Mark, and that's what sparked the fight. It gets to the point where Jay Leno just can't keep the show together because his guests were fighting so much, and producers went so far as to bring out pies for Mark and Burt to make it look like this fight was staged. After this, people got talking, and some people came to the conclusion that this brawl was uncalled for, and since Mark technically started it, he felt the most backlash. Soon fans started to notice that Mark just wasn't making it big in Hollywood anymore, and some believe that this bad press that came from this fight is what caused Mark's career to suffer. At number 9, Tom Cruise. Now I know you guys are going to come for me in the comments saying, "Brie, Tom Cruise's career isn't destroyed, he's doing just fine." Yes, I know that. However, his career and public image did take a beating after his interview with Matt Lauer in 2005, where he made comments about mental health, psychiatry, and for his criticisms of actress Brooke Shields. All of this was caused by Tom's belief in Scientology and the fact that he doesn't believe in medication or therapy. While on the Today Show, Tom and Matt had the discussion about how the actor criticized Brooke Shields for taking antidepressants for her postpartum depression, and he tried to shut down anything that Matt would say to defend psychiatry, also going on to say, quote, "You don't know the history of psychiatry, I do," end quote. Between that and his stance on Scientology, he lost a lot of popularity, leading to some box office bombs that affected his career. Now before I carry on with the video, I would like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if Minecraft content piques your interest. I've got lots of fun stuff going on over there and I upload every single day, so come check it out and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen was riding a pretty good wave back when he was the star of 2.5 Men, but after doing an interview on 2020, things took a turn and his career pretty much got destroyed. Everything sort of came crashing down for him after that interview, where he ranted about the 2.5 Men creator Chuck Lorre. This interview was pretty chaotic and all over the place, with Charlie waving his hands about frantically and even going so far as to call Chuck a turd and a clown. This became a media feeding frenzy as they labeled him as crazy, and they just pushed him to his breaking point. As a result of some of the comments Charlie made during the interview, he was fired from 2.5 Men, and that was a pretty big deal since he had been pulling in about $1 million per episode. The actor pretty much hit rock bottom after that, making this a lesson to remind you to watch what you say. At number 7, Wilmer Valderrama. When That 70s Show actor Wilmer Valderrama was a guest on Howard Stern's show back in 2006, he had the potential to use the experience to his advantage and help his career, but instead he did the opposite and caused some damage instead. While on the show, the actor shared a little too much information with Stern and exposed a lot of the details about people he had slept with. Wilmer revealed that he had slept with Mandy Moore and even described the experience even though no one asked for that. He also rated his relationship with actress Jennifer Love Hewitt even though, once again, nobody asked. Wilmer really just exposed a lot of personal information about himself, but faced scrutiny because of how the people he talked about were impacted. A lot of people said that the comments he made were uncalled for, uncomfortable, and inappropriate. Years later, in 2010, the actor apologized for what he said during the interview, but the damage was already done. His career wasn't the same, and the people he slept with were pretty mad about having their business exposed like that too. At number 6, Addison Rae. Back in April of this year, TikTok star Addison Rae faced backlash after her appearance on The Tonight Show. The influencer was invited on the show to perform a handful of viral TikTok dances, and though it seemed innocent and unproblematic, this is the internet and there is always a problem. Addison, as well as Jimmy Fallon, started facing backlash because no credit was given to the people who created the dances that Addison performed. A lot of people watched this bit on the show and thought that it wasn't fair that Addison got to come on to the show and essentially take credit for the work of other TikTok creators, and so fans took to the internet to advocate for those who lost out on the notoriety of their dances. The Tonight Show producers, as well as Fallon himself, recognized that they deserved to have their voices heard, and so they got their opportunity, but for Addison Rae, this bad publicity just hurt her public image for a while. But honestly, this isn't anything new because these TikTokers are always getting into some kind of mess anyway. At number 5, Trisha Paytas. Trisha Paytas seems to be in some kind of drama or controversy every couple of months. Most recently, the YouTuber was caught in some drama with their former podcast co-host, Ethan Klein. The pair had a podcast called Frenemies, and honestly, the title said it all. They had beef in the past and decided to make a podcast out of it, so really the whole thing was doomed from the start. But I digress. Basically, they got into yet another fight, and Trisha decided that they needed to quit the podcast. After leaving, the quote-unquote truth started to come out about the behind-the-scenes drama regarding the podcast. Most of the conflict had to do with money and how much each person contributed to the show and whatnot. But this debate got heated, exposed videos were made, and talk show careers came to an end. Even though their career isn't completely destroyed simply because Trisha won't let it die, it wasn't good for their image or credibility, but honestly, things are always rocky with Trisha, so even if we think that their career is over, they won't think so. At number 4, Wendy Williams. With the drama surrounding Britney Spears and her conservatorship, everyone seems to want to put their 2 cents in and contribute to the conversation, and the criticisms being thrown towards Britney's family, especially her father. Most of this criticism happens on the internet from Britney's fans, but talk show host Wendy Williams took things one step further and made her comments about the situation on air of her show. She was discussing Britney's ongoing court battle with the audience, and she made comments about how Britney's parents had the public fooled into thinking that they were doing what was best for the pop star. After learning more information as to what's really been going on in that situation, we know that things are much more rocky than we once thought, and because this is so unfair for Britney, this got Wendy pretty heated because she followed up her criticisms of the Spears family by saying, quote, "Death to all of them," end quote. This comment went a little too far for people's likings, and Wendy faced backlash for it. The comment had to be edited out of the show, and there were a handful of people demanding that Wendy apologize to Britney's family for what she said. Wendy ended up getting a lot of bad press for weeks following the incident, and as we all know by now, for a celebrity, bad press is a very dangerous thing to have. At number 3, Sia. Grammy-winning artist Sia started facing pretty serious backlash following the release of her feature film Music, starring Maddie Ziegler. The film, which is about a young non-verbal girl on the autism spectrum, starred Maddie Ziegler as the film's protagonist, and even though Maddie has worked closely with Sia for many years, fans had to put their foot down and call the singer out on her casting choice. Because the role went to someone who wasn't on the autism spectrum, she started facing backlash. The singer got a chance to clear the air while doing a sit-down interview recently, but instead of owning up to everything and apologizing to fans, she instead doubled down, which really made things worse for her. While she understood the feelings of those who were angry with her, Sia defended her casting choice by saying, quote, "There's no way I could have used someone of Maddie's level of functioning to play her. I can't do a project without her," end quote. This interview, combined with her harsh defense of the film on Twitter, made for a storm of backlash, and things got so bad that she had to leave social media to avoid the scrutiny. While her career isn't necessarily over, she has lost a lot of popularity. At number 2, Mark Wahlberg. In 2013, while appearing as a guest on the Graham Norton Show, Mark Wahlberg caused quite a scene that greatly affected his public image. Essentially, Mark went through his entire guest appearance while severely under the influence, and he made quite a fool of himself. While on the show, Mark kept interrupting other guests, touching people, acting pretty disruptive, and even fell asleep on the couch. It became one interview that Graham wanted to forget because of how awkward and uncomfortable the entire experience was. This moment went down in TV history as one of the worst interviews ever simply because of how chaotic it was. In the aftermath of the whole ordeal, Mark's public image declined for a while because he made a fool of himself on TV, and not every fan is into that kind of behavior. And finally, at number 1, Joe Rogan. The pandemic and the COVID vaccines are still a very hot topic amongst many people. There are opinions from opposite sides of the spectrum, and many times uninformed people spread misinformation that can really hurt others. This is how Joe Rogan started facing backlash after he made some comments about the vaccines that were incredibly untrue and pretty damaging. On his podcast, Joe was talking about the COVID vaccines, and he made a comment saying that young people didn't need to get vaccinated, saying, quote, "If you're like 21 years old and you say to me, should I get vaccinated? I say no. If you're a healthy person and you're exercising all the time and you're young and you're eating well, I don't think you need to worry about this," end quote. His comments had to be fact-checked by one of the world's top doctors, where they went on to say that what Joe said was untrue, and that no matter what your age or health status is, it's important to consider getting vaccinated if that's best for you. Because of what Joe said, he started facing backlash, and people started calling him an anti-vaxxer. He had to set the record straight that he wasn't an anti-vaxxer, but people still don't believe him. In this day and age, your views on the pandemic and everything that comes with it can make or break you, so this backlash surely wasn't good for Joe. At number 10, Piers Morgan. It is crazy to think that this person ruined their career because they didn't want to take someone's mental health seriously. TV presenter Piers Morgan had a lot to say after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's bombshell interview. The insight that this royal couple shared in the interview were full of bombshell secrets and testimonies, and also included some serious allegations as they showed the public a new part of themselves, looking deeper into the lives of Meghan and Harry. One person who relentlessly picked the couple's interview apart was Piers Morgan, and his actions on his TV program ended his career in seconds and also led to him getting cancelled online. During the interview, Meghan Markle opened up about her mental health and how it was affected being part of the royal family, saying that there was once a point after she married into the family that she wanted to take her own life. Piers spoke about this on air of Good Morning Britain and said that he, quote, "didn't believe a word she said." After Piers made those harsh comments, he started to face massive backlash from all sides, as people said that his comments on Meghan's mental health were diminishing and disrespectful. The studio he worked for, as well as Piers himself, started receiving harsh comments, and so Piers actually decided to leave his position at Good Morning Britain. He has since refused to apologize, and no one really wants to work with him after all of this drama, so it could be that his career is finished. At number 9, Chris Harrison. Bachelor Nation was in fury when a scandal took over the recent Bachelor season. It all started when a contestant's questionable past came to light, and fans of the show started grabbing their pitchforks on Twitter demanding accountability. Now, when Chris Harrison, the show's longtime host, tried to do some damage control, that's where things really got heated, and it did not end well for him. When asked about the scandal involving a Bachelor contestant in an interview, Chris went on to seemingly defend this contestant, where he said, quote, "We all need to have a little grace, a little understanding, a little compassion. Because I've seen some stuff online. This judge, jury, executioner thing. I haven't heard Rachel speak on this yet. Until I actually hear this woman have a chance to speak, who am I to say any of this?" End quote. People found his comments to be offensive and insensitive, saying that he was too quick to defend this contestant's actions. Even though he sort of tried to justify his comments, making it so that he wasn't necessarily defending this contestant, the fans still came for blood, and they got it. After everything was said and done, Chris ended up leaving the show, effectively ending his career after this one talk show interview. Now, before I carry on with the list, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also maybe consider checking out my gaming channel, Viper Girl. I've got lots of fun stuff going on over there, and I upload daily, so come check it out and subscribe while you're there. At number 8, Sinead O'Connor. A SNL is one of the most popular and successful variety/talk shows out there, and because it's so popular, things can often go wrong with so many people watching and so much on the line for people's careers. One of the biggest scandals to come from SNL is probably the one involving Sinead O'Connor and how she called out the Catholic Church during a performance in 1992 that effectively destroyed her career. On this episode, Sinead was asked to perform a few songs for her newest album at the time, and though she agreed, there was a little fine print to accompany her appearance. Sinead asked to perform a rendition of Bob Marley's song War instead of a piece from her own album. That night, she got up on stage, sang the song, changed up the context of some of the lines, and made a bold statement at the end, after she held up a photo of Pope John Paul II and tore it up in a show of defiance against the Catholic Church. She did all this as a means to raise awareness about some of the allegations that were against the Catholic Church because she had personal experience with those who were allegedly hurt by members of said church, and she wanted to fight against it. This stunt angered a lot of people because for days following the performance, NBC received thousands of angry calls condemning them for allowing something like this to happen. Other celebrities like Madonna and Joe Pesci also had some harsh words for Sinead. After that event, no one wanted to work with her ever again, and her career pretty much went down the tubes soon after. At number 7, Carmen. For people trying to make it big in Hollywood and in the music industry, the idea is to get yourself in front of as many people as possible to build up your reputation. So when you're asked to be a judge on a talk show, that is a huge deal, but only if it goes smoothly, and for the music duo Carmen, that is certainly not what happened, because after a botched SNL performance, their career was over. Carmen, though now disbanded and rebranded, was a music duo who got their start on YouTube by posting covers of a lot of popular songs like Party Rock Anthem and Super Bass. Eventually, they got a large following, leading them to getting noticed by a casting director over at SNL. They invited the duo to perform on the show, and they sang a couple songs, but after the show, when the ratings came in, it wasn't looking good for Carmen. They got some pretty harsh reviews, and this completely tanked their career. One critic even said that their performance caused, quote, mild auditory distress. They were never really able to bounce back from this catastrophe of a performance, and so they eventually faded away, ending their careers. At number 6, Bill Maher. We should all know by now that language has the ability to do a lot. It can be good for when you're making positive changes, but it can also come back to bite you if you say something that isn't so nice. Some people, however, aren't very conscious of this, and their harsh and sometimes offensive language can cause them to face massive backlash and can even end their career. Take talk show host Bill Maher, for example. On his HBO show Real Time with Bill Maher, he dropped the N-word while talking to Senator Bill Sass, and as you could imagine, it did not end well for him. During his interview, the senator told Bill that he would like to invite him to Nebraska and, quote, have you work in the fields with us. To that, Bill replied, scoffing at the idea, saying, quote, I'm not a house N-word. After those words were uttered, the fury came from the public in condemning his use of that word. Bill claimed to have been using the word in a joking manner, but that still doesn't take away from the gravity of uttering that word in the first place. Bill was subsequently ripped apart by his audience and even other late-night personalities like Stephen Colbert. After this scandal, his career was never really the same because many people aren't quick to forget these things. At number 5, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne found herself in some hot water earlier this year after she made some comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry that not only caused her to get backlash but also lose a friend. Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up Pierce's comments about Meghan Markle's mental health, and this frustrated Cheryl because she didn't like the comments that were being made about those involved. The two got into a very heated debate and ended with a lot of drama and sparking a conversation about Sharon's ideals. She was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about her and how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts. As a result of this, the network for their show launched an internal investigation that ended with Sharon being let go from the show. Sharon had been part of the show for so long that her firing certainly altered her career quite a lot. At number 4, Kelly Osbourne. Now, we just talked about Sharon Osbourne and her recent talk show scandal, but her daughter Kelly has also been in her fair share of controversies, including one that also happened while on a talk show that kind of ruined her career. During an episode of The View, Kelly Osbourne really missed the mark while trying to clap back at Donald Trump, and even though she was trying to diss Trump, she ended up getting in enough trouble herself. Just shortly before this episode aired, Donald Trump, who was at the time only a presidential nominee, was saying offensive things about the Latinx community and how he wanted to deport them. I am sure we are all too familiar with this whole concept. Well, in a very poor attempt at clapping back at Trump's racist his comments, Kelly said, quote, "If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who's going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?" What Kelly was trying to do was defend the Latinx community, but rather than stand up for them, she ended up offending them even more, as her remarks were interpreted as saying that the Latinx community is only good for being housekeepers, as depicted in many racial stereotypes. After facing so much backlash and realizing the gravity of her words, Kelly issued an apology saying, quote, "I want to start by saying I always take responsibilities for my actions. In this particular case, I will take responsibility for my poor choice of words, but I will not apologize for being a racist, as I am not." End quote. Kelly completely missed the mark on that one, and it certainly hurt her career. At number 3, Paula Deen. At one point, we all thought that Paula Deen was just a sweet southern mom who liked butter a little too much, but after 2013, she took on a very different label as she was exposed for being pretty racist following a lawsuit that showed the world what she was like behind the scenes. After being deposed, the truth came out after Paula was asked if she had ever used the N-word, and she said yes. This certainly was not good for her image, so she went on damage control to really take the heat off her, but instead of getting things to die down faster, her appearance on the Today Show caused things to get so much worse. Instead of owning up to her actions and trying to clear her name, as most people would try to do in that kind of situation, Paula instead deflected the criticism she was facing and even voiced how shocked she was that so many people were taking offense to her actions. The fact that she didn't even take accountability for her actions rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and just ended up making the situation so much worse for her and pretty much ended her career after that. At number 2, James Corden. Recently, TV host James Corden has found himself in trouble with fans after his Spill Your Guts segment from the show started facing backlash with fans. Fans are calling for James to take accountability after he made some comments about some Asian foods that he had on the show, because some fans thought this was really offensive. Because the foods that they use in the Spill Your Guts segment are supposed to be ones that you wouldn't want to eat, the fact that some Asian foods like balut were used and called, quote, disgusting, made a lot of people take to the internet to call for accountability and an apology from James Corden. Apparently, James has been making these types of comments about a lot of different Asian dishes on a few occasions, so some people have said enough is enough, and some have even created a petition calling for the removal of the Spill Your Guts segment. Since James has been facing cancellation for this lately, do you think his career is in serious jeopardy, or do you think this will all blow over without any repercussions? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And finally, at number 1, Ellen DeGeneres. The number 1 person on this list who ruined their career on a talk show is no doubt Ellen DeGeneres. In 2020, we watched the comedian and talk show host fall rapidly from grace as allegation after allegation came out, painting Ellen as a nightmare to work with, among other things. She faced so much backlash from things like the treatment of her staff to comments about lockdown and the Black Lives Matter movement. Because of the events of last year, she lost a lot of credibility and respect in the industry, and her show lost a lot of ratings and advertisers as well. She really lost everything and has recently announced that her show will be ending after this last season, making it seem like her career is well and truly over.
In spot number 10 is the drama between Caitlyn Jenner and Ellen DeGeneres. It was back in 2015 when Caitlyn went on Ellen's show for an interview, and it ended with an ongoing feud between them. During the interview, Ellen asked her opinion on same-sex marriage, and Caitlyn said that there was a time in her life that she did not support it, but now she does. Ellen fired back immediately though, and made it seem like Caitlyn was saying that she does not support the LGBTQ+ community. The tension between them seemed to go past the show because Ellen talked about it on the Howard Stern show. She told Howard that Caitlyn was unfairly passing judgment about gay people and same-sex marriage. Caitlyn later came out with her side of the story and said she was not happy that Ellen painted her in that light. She claimed that she talked to Ellen on the phone prior to going on the show in the first place, and that they already discussed her changing opinion on same-sex marriage. So when Ellen flipped the switch on her during the live interview, Caitlyn was really upset. Cruising into number 9 is the Wendy Williams lip drama. She caused a big stir online after she talked about the Golden Globes on her talk show. It was because she started making comments about the awards show and began talking about the Oscar-nominated actor Joaquin Phoenix. But while talking about him, she mocked the scar that he has above his lip. She said that when he shaves his mustache, he has a hairline fracture, and then she started demonstrating with her hand how his lip scar looks like a cleft lip. People were furious and said she was insensitive not only to the actor, but also those who have cleft lips. Even Cher was furious and had a lot to say about it on Twitter. One of her tweets said an apology does not make up for what she did, and the other one said that she should be fired for making fun of something that is very painful for some people. Wendy did issue an apology following all the backlash, in case you're wondering, but is that enough? I don't know. She still has her job, so I guess so. In spot number 8, we have the time when Paris Hilton called out David Letterman. I did an entire list of celebrities who tried to warn us about David Letterman, so there is a handful of scandals that I could have used, but the one with Paris is what sparked the majority of them to be revealed in the first place. In 2020, Paris did a vulnerable documentary called This Is Paris, where she opened up about different times that she was belittled during interviews by other people in the industry, David being one of them. One video clip surfaced online showing him bugging her about her time in jail, which happened years before. He kept making very insensitive jokes about it, and even after she asked him to stop, he wouldn't. Paris revealed that he was purposely trying to humiliate her because he agreed not to bring up the jail thing before she even went on the show in the first place. After the clip went viral, a handful of other clips with different female celebrities surfaced, showing him belittling them and also being sexually inappropriate towards them. Taking over number 7 is Steve Harvey's note. He was making headlines in 2017 when a memo he sent off to his staff members was leaked online, showing him in a different light. People are used to seeing his very kind and goofy side, but apparently he is more entitled when he is off camera. The memo was sent from Harvey to his staff and basically told them all not to approach him. It said, "Do not come to my dressing room unless invited. Do not approach me while I'm in the makeup chair unless I ask to speak with you directly. Do not take offense to the new way of doing business." Turns out he was revamping things for season 5 of his show, and with a new crew, he wanted new rules. After the memo went viral, he decided to bail on the rap party for his own show. Probably because the staff all were terrified to even look at him. What do you guys think? Does he have a right to say that in a staff memo? Like, do you think it was too much? Do you think it's valid? Let me know. At number 6, we have James Corden facing backlash for allegedly being racist. This scandal caused a huge debate because some people felt he should be cancelled while others saw no issue with what he was doing. I will let you be your own judge. If you haven't seen his show, he does a segment called Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts. He fills the table with disgusting foods like cow tongue, different bugs, 1,000-year-old eggs, sardine smoothies, things like that. If his celebrity guest does not want to answer the question, they have to eat whatever is in front of them. He's been doing it for years, but this year he started taking heat after people said some of the foods that he refers to as disgusting are very common in Asian cultures. People said that the segment is culturally offensive and insensitive because many Asian Americans are consistently bullied and mocked for their native foods. James was quick to apologize though and be very understanding, saying that he will not do the segment and he will make appropriate changes to his show. We've made it halfway and we have Megyn Kelly vs. Jane Fonda. In September 2017, what started out as a normal interview led to some ongoing tension between these two ladies. They were having a normal interview which seemed to be going well until Megyn started asking Jane about aging and plastic surgery. It seemed to strike a nerve with her because she became irritated immediately and did not want to talk about it. She fired back at her saying, "We really want to talk about that now?" Then she changed the subject and began talking about her movie, Our Souls at Night. The interview just wasn't the same after that. You could feel like some awkward tension between them. Jane later joked about it months later on the Today Show, and Megyn replied by saying the actress is fixated on the exchange and said it was part of Jane's poor me routine. Things just seemed to get even worse from there. Just went on a spiral and a rant, and it's just not good. Rolling into spot number 4, we have Sharon Osbourne gets fired. Well, she was forced to step away, so you could say she kind of quit. Things turned sour quick when she went on the show and defended Piers Morgan, who gave his opinion about Meghan Markle's big interview regarding the royal family. His opinion was that he didn't believe Meghan's very serious claims. Sharon defended him, saying that he has a right to speak about his views and opinion, but that just caused issues for her because it came off like she was kind of agreeing with him. She tried to defend herself, but it ended up turning into a very heated argument between her and one of her other show hosts. The show had to cut to commercial and bleep out a bunch of F-bombs because the fight got so intense. The show was on a hiatus before it was announced that they would be moving forward without her. The show's statement said that her behavior towards her co-hosts did not align with their values for a respectful workplace. With that being said, at number 3 is Piers Morgan gets fired. You already heard the gist of what happened, but there was a lot of drama that led to him quitting the show, but media outlets say he was forced to step away. I feel like that's a nice way of saying, you're fired, I'm gonna give you opportunity to quit, if not, you're fired. He has been adored on the talk show Good Morning Britain, but then ITV announced they were getting a lot of complaints about Piers and they had to investigate them. Turns out the show received 41,000 complaints after Piers said he did not believe a word that Meghan Markle said in her Oprah Winfrey interview about the royal family. If you missed that very shocking interview, Meghan revealed how her mental health was negatively affected by the royal family and brought up certain incidents which were extremely racist and insensitive. Piers was open about the fact that he personally did not believe her claims. He ended up walking away from the show, which seemed to be a mutual agreement with the network either way, because they could not defend or protect his comments. Moving on to number 2, we have Jimmy Kimmel's insensitive comment. During one of his episodes in 2013, he offended the Chinese community around the world after making an insensitive joke. During one of his segments, a child suggested that harming everyone in China as a solution to dealing with America's growing debt. Jimmy responded to it by saying, "That's an interesting idea." The statement enraged a lot of people, even if it was meant to be a joke or sarcasm, and people online were demanding an apology from him. Eventually, Jimmy released a statement saying, "I thought it was obvious that I didn't agree with that statement, but apparently it wasn't. So I just want to say I am sorry, I apologize, it was certainly not my intent to upset anyone." I feel like he just chose to use sarcasm at a very bad time. Like, sarcasm either hits or it misses. Earning the number 1 spot is the feud between Dakota Johnson and Ellen DeGeneres. This has gone down as one of the most iconic and cringeworthy moments in talk show history. In 2019, a feud sparked between the two of them after Dakota went on her show to do an interview. At the time, they had already had this ongoing debate on whether or not Ellen had been invited to her birthday party. In 2018, Dakota admitted she did not invite Ellen because she didn't know if she would want to be invited, so in 2019, she did invite her. But Ellen did not show up to the party and also did not give any explanation why. So when Dakota went on her talk show, Ellen brought it up and accused her of not inviting her to her birthday again. The tension was immediately super uncomfortable as Dakota starts bringing other people into it. She said, I quote, "Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. Ask everybody. Ask Jonathan, your producer." She literally then points to the producer and calls him out during the interview. The producer revealed that she was in fact invited, and then it was super awkward because Ellen didn't even say why she didn't go, and then the audience just had to sit there and watch the whole thing unfold.
Starting off our list today in the number 10 spot, we have Jimmy Kimmel. After numerous clips of Jimmy Kimmel wearing a blackface on his 90s talk show, The Man Show resurfaced and went viral. The late-night host apologized for his embarrassing portrayals of black celebrities, including NBA star Karl Malone. Jimmy would then release a statement in June 2020, and in it he would say, "I have long been reluctant to address this, as I knew doing so would be celebrated as a victory by those who equate apologies with weakness and cheer for leaders who use prejudice to divide us. The delay was a mistake." Jimmy then regretted his past decisions and went on to further his apology by saying, "There is nothing more important to me than your respect, and I apologize to those who are genuinely hurt or offended by the makeup I wore or the words I spoke." And while the apology was definitely a step forward for the star, it makes us all hope in the future he will use his voice and platform to spread love and not hate. Number 9, Wendy Williams. When Wendy Williams dedicated a July 2021 segment to a 19-year-old TikTok star who passed away, instead of paying tribute to the teen, she took a different approach. And it almost seemed like she was turning the TikTok star's passing into a joke. In the segment, she even went on to say, "I have no idea who this is. Neither does one person in the building." If things couldn't get any more worse, she then also turned to the crowd to note, "He's got more followers than me, 2.5 million, before bragging that she had more Instagram followers than him. His mother, Chanel Clark, who was actually watching the show at the time but then later turned to Philadelphia's CBS 3 to share with the media outlet that she didn't appreciate Wendy's commentary when she said, "Like as a mother, Wendy Williams, how dare you?" She then went on to note that she found the whole episode just to be rather disrespectful in general. Hey everyone, I really hope you're enjoying this video so far. If so, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never have to miss out on what I might just cover next. And trust me, you don't want to miss out on the next video because it has some serious tea in it. Number 8. Ellen DeGeneres. When the Ellen DeGeneres show was under investigation in the summer of 2020, the world would come to learn that not just one former staff member but multiple former staff members accused Ellen of creating a toxic workplace environment. Trying to cover up all of the commotion surrounding all of the rumors that were being leaked, Ellen would then later send her team a lengthy memo where she would apologize to her former staff members for making them feel uncomfortable, and she even went on to promise that going forward, things were going to change so that everybody could feel safe while working in the studio. While many of her celebrity friends, including Katy Perry and Kevin Hart, came out to defend the star, others like Brad Garrett and Leah Thompson claimed they had heard about the negative experiences. Warner Media would then be forced to launch an investigation into the show in July of 2020, shortly before filming resumed. And after the investigation was completed, they decided it would be best to end Ellen's show. And it was truly sad as there were so many moments on the show that made us all smile and hope for the best. Number 7. Jimmy Fallon. Back in 2016, Jimmy Fallon decided he was going to sit down for an interview with the then presidential candidate Donald Trump. And with the interview failing miserably, the Tonight Show host would find himself being heavily criticized. Many viewers then started to blame the talk show host for everything from normalizing Trump enough to get him elected, or even having Trump's ratings decline. But in another reflection on the moment, even Jimmy has now admitted that he did screw up. In an interview for Awards Chatter, which is a podcast made by The Hollywood Reporter, Fallon expressed his regret about ruffling Trump's hair on the show when he said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to make anyone angry. I never do and I never will. It's all in the fun of the show. I made a mistake. I'm sorry if I made anyone mad. And looking back, I wouldn't do it again." But I mean, the way he rubbed Donald's hair really made him look like this cute little golden retriever puppy, and Donald was really enjoying the process. Number 6. Joy and Meghan McCain. When it comes to the View host, we all know they're known for butting their heads over difficult political views. However, when Joy decided to make an offhand remark about not missing Meghan McCain while she was on maternity leave, it would cause the Arizona native to leave the show behind for good after being on the show for 4 years. During a heated exchange on an episode in January 2021, Meghan would tease Joy for her remarks by saying, "You missed me so much when I was on maternity leave." Joy then quickly responded to Meghan's statement by saying, I did not miss you. 0. Later, Meghan would then sit down for an interview with Variety before her August 2021 exit, and she would explain to the media outlet that the public squabble actually led for her to have a panic attack after filming Wrap, when she said, "I couldn't stop crying, and I'm not always crying. I couldn't expose myself, so I threw up in a garbage can," before adding, Joy never even apologized for making the rude comments. Number 5. Jon Stewart and Tucker Carlson. During a 2014 appearance on Tucker Carlson's former CNN show Crossfire, the former Daily Show host Jon Stewart accused Tucker and his co-host of partisan hackery and hurting America. The interview then sparked a lot of outrage, and Jon even addressed the heated exchange just days after the Crossfire episode aired on his own Comedy Central show, when he came out to say, apparently, when you invite someone on the show called Crossfire, you express an opinion. They don't care for that. The political debate show was then cancelled 1 year later, and Paul even went on to accuse Jon's appearance of being the final nail in the show's coffin. In March of 2021, Jon then reignited his feud with the Fox News correspondent when he made a tweet saying, "It's high time I apologize. I never should have lumped you in with that terrible, terrible person." Number 4. Alec Baldwin. At one point in time, Alec Baldwin had his own talk show. Well, that was until he made one pretty questionable move. Alec's MSNBC show would then end up being cancelled in November 2013 after the famously outspoken 30 Rock actor started to make headlines after he offended the LGBTQ+ community with a slur while he was in New York City. Feeling ashamed for everything he
said after taking the time to reflect and learn about the hurt he caused, he would then come forward with an apology, and with his apology, he would say, "Words are important. I understand that, and I will choose mine with great care going forward. What I said and did this week as I was trying to protect my family was offensive and unacceptable." Number 3. Whoopi Goldberg. So we all know Whoopi Goldberg's show has always been pretty controversial, but I think we were all shocked after she made some pretty concerning comments about history. Because the star made some hurtful anti-Semitic remarks and directed them towards the Jewish community. Kim Godwin, the president at ABC, would then come forward in a statement and say, "Effective immediately. I am suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comment." While Whoopi has apologized, I've asked her to take the time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comment. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities. Hours after the incident, the Oscar winner also apologized for her remarks during an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and she would say it upset a lot of people, which was never ever my intention. She then later headed to her Twitter to also issue another formal apology. Number 2. Sharon Osbourne. The talk show host Sharon Osbourne once made headlines back in November 2013 when she slammed all the ladies on the show after she made an appearance on the Arsenio Hall show. Even though the star tried to claim that she was actually a really big fan of Barbara Walker's and that she even idolizes her for the rest of the hosts on The View, she went on to throw some major shade at them when she pretty much said they could all go F themselves. After being criticized by fans, Sharon would then come out to apologize for her remarks, and she would tell all her fans she didn't want to come off as mean as she was, and that she was only trying to be funny. Then she went on to note that she actually had a lot of respect for all women, and that she wasn't really responsible for anything she says as she's just a loose cannon. But I mean, sometimes funny is just not funny. Number 1. Megyn Kelly. So back in October of 2018, Megyn Kelly would come under fire after her name started to hit the headlines, after the star tried to defend why she was wearing black face makeup while she was celebrating Halloween. Instead of issuing an apology, Megyn would head to her morning show to talk about the incident, and during the episode she would say, "When I was a kid, it was okay, just as long as you were dressing as a character." Megyn would then be forced to apologize in an email to her staff members, and later she even read a similar statement on air to apologize to all of the viewers on her show and her fans and to the United States. In the end, US would actually end up confirming 2 days later on that NBC actually canceled the Megyn Kelly Today in the wake of all the controversy.